I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting for Rock Ridge, April 25th, 2022. Will everybody make sure that their phones and other devices are on off or placed in the silent mode? If you're looking for information on the meeting at our table, we have copies of the agenda. And if you're at home and want to follow along, you can follow along by visiting rockridgepublicschools.org, district information, school board, and board book. At this time, I would like everyone to stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will conduct roll call. Brandy?
Here.
John?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Nicole?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
Stacy?
Here.
Tim is here. Let the record show that Polly is not in attendance. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Stacy, support by Brandy. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, silent, carried. Thank you. At this time, I know of one visitor that would like to speak to the school board. It's on item 411. Come on up, Tom. And I will remind you is that we won't have any political statements during this. This is to discuss the trip to Orlando.
Tom Walton, Evelyn. I owe you an apology, Nicole. I thought the trip was paid for by the district. My mistake. But you people have to approve the trip, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, here's some things to consider. Okay. I spent 15 minutes online this morning researching Disney and queerness and pedophilia and stuff like that. And I was.
This has nothing to do with the Rock Ridge trip for the
It has
orchestra.
everything to do with going to Orlando, Florida to Disney.
Tom?
Doesn't it?
It does not.
In your opinion, not in mine.
Tom, we're not going to stand for any political or strain from the subject of,
Political, it's the truth.
I'm going to warn you one time and then I'll ask you to sit down.
You can ask all you want, but I'm not going to. A report from CNN, July 14, 2014. 35 Disney employees were arrested since 2006 and accused of sex crimes involving children.
Okay, that's enough.
Most of them were
Tom, enough. Sit down.
were arrested in a trafficking sting operation.
The meeting.
March 17.
We're going to take a recess here.
I can wait.
We'll take a 3-minute recess. Tom, you have to go sit down. This
We're live again.
Okay, so we'll come back from our recess. Thank you all.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Perfect. You're way ahead of me.
Just, excuse me, I do like to talk about visitor input, however, because we all are getting the emails from the Catherine Distenhurst, or Disternhoft, or whatever her name is, I'm sorry if I said it wrong, who wanted her email to be read. I'm just wondering why we're not reading her comments.
I think that at prior meetings, I think that's just a repetitive email, I do believe.
We've had that email.
Well, and she's also had this is just my perception, but she's also had the opportunity to address the board and had a discussion, brought it up about the videotaping
The
and
same thing prior.
so in my opinion, that's already, it's redundant, it's already
It's repetitive.
Repetitive.
yeah.
Sorry, wrong word.
And she's also presented some of this to
The City of
the
Gilbert.
city of Gilbert.
City of Gilbert
Okay.
as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we had a motion, yes, thank you, Nicole.
Thanks for-
Had a motion for the consent agenda by John.
Support.
Support by Tom. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? With no further discussion, all those who are in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, silent, carried. Thank you. And I apologize, I forgot to tell everyone that we are going to move one thing. We have the principal and some students from the Roosevelt Building that are giving a presentation. And I would love to hope that Kraus Anderson would give us a short presentation tonight, but I know that's not going to happen.
So you,
So we're going to have them go.
Well, at least look at us.
yeah.
So if it's okay, we're going to have the Roosevelt presentation, which is 6.3 right now.
I would move to support that.
Thank you. And the chair will. You thought I forgot about you, didn't you?
No, I had faith. Right here. Scott Manny, I'm the principal at Roosevelt. I want to talk about 2 upcoming events, and then I have a special guest star to talk about an event we had on Friday. This next week, we have, on Monday, we have our Ninja Anywhere event, which is like American Ninja Warrior course, sponsored by our wonderful PTSA. So we're going to have that set up outside of Parkview and have our kids run through it. And then on Tuesday, we're having our 6th grade graduation at 6 o'clock at the Virginia High School. And the reason we're having it a little early is because of everything going on this spring with construction and graduation and all the events. We just want to make sure that our 6th graders, who are our last class at Roosevelt, get truly honored. But now I want to bring my special guest up, but I will let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Tavisha Grimes, a 5th grade student at Roosevelt. Our building will be called North Star next year, and when the new building is built, I want to talk with you today about our trip over to Franklin Elementary. On Friday, August 22nd, I know the communities have always not gotten along. They decided to help us because our school is being torn down. I want to thank them for letting us go to their school. We are now one school community of Rock Ridge. That is nice. Here's a few things I want to say. I thought it would be a longer trip over there, but it was not. It only took a few minutes. It seems like a great place for the students to get along. We will have less problems. Because the hallways are in long rows, you are able to meet new people. The playground is a wonderful place because there is more space to run around. Nobody will get hit with a football or have to stop the game because the ball went out of the road. The students are very excited about what Franklin has. We can learn the history of the buildings and the students who used to go there. There's new games, new stuff, also lots of space to walk around and explore. I want to thank the school board very much for letting us at Franklin for the next 2 years as our new school is being built. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you? Is that for part of a class, or did you just want to write that?
No, Mr. Manning helped me write it, and I said the paragraphs, what to say.
Okay, perfect. But you know what else that I want to say that you did really well? You looked up and gave everybody eye contact a couple of times. That's a really good speaker. You did a nice job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. That's our report for Roosevelt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done, Scott?
Make sure you give us good eye contact too.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of it today.
We're watching you. 5.1, you have the same allotted time.
Happy to do. That's job, really.
You can give them each 3 minutes, can we?
Yeah.
What's that?
We give you each 3 minutes.
God, I'm rest.
So we got to cut it back.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us come each quarter and give you an update on the projects. We appreciate the opportunity, and we will keep it brief. But feel free to give us questions because we're going to move through this pretty quickly. You also have all these files as your read-ahead packet, and we have a hard copy for the board chair as well as the superintendent. So if you want to reference any more, you can do that. We'll get started here.
Sorry.
Are we up?
Yep. Sorry.
Well, I guess we're done.
And thank you.
This is part of your time, too.
Got it. So I think everybody knows everyone from Cross Anderson that's going to speak, but I'm Patrick Gallagher, the Senior Project Manager. Pete Avonen, who is the elementary transitioning from Laurentian to North Star right now. Morgan Siopa does the demolition project and working on the high school, and Paul Knoll.
And remember, you only have to hear from me 3 more quarters before ribbon cutting for the high school. So.
All right. Real quick, we're going to do a little bit of a wrap up from your last board meeting, which we were not at. Talk a little bit about the design for the 2 spaces that are in this building. And then we're going to talk the current overall referendum budget status, and then go through each of the projects. And we'll move through those quite rapidly. First of all, after the last meeting, it was brought to our attention that you had selected, this is the design package that was put together for the wrestling. It was solicited by, I believe, Carrie got these prices. We just pointed out during the advisory team meeting, and I think there was some misunderstanding. The way the bid proposals were put in, they didn't have a standard format. And in the format, this $3,500 existing model edition was added into the Cunningham price when you considered those prices. It was like $40,000. That was something that is invoiced, that is going through the building, taking field dimensions and putting everything in the CAD machine so that the design could happen no matter who you selected. So that should not have been in that consideration. And it was kind of confusing the way that was put in the letter. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. When you look at the actual prices, DSGW's price, $39,000, is what you approved. Actually, Cunningham's price is $37,237. And I think what you considered was that plus that, and you were comparing it to these 2 numbers. Was that what happened?
Yes.
And if that's the
That's my understanding anyway.
I think we chose them because it looked like they were the lowest.
And also the open-ended expenses that they had.
Right.
Yeah.
Coming from
Let's see, yeah.
cities, that was also the tip to scale. They're
Data.
they're local.
And because these design firms didn't have an opportunity to really present to you, understand that right now, the Cunningham proposal is the same team that's on the high school, and they're here already. So what they did way back when we did this decision on who we were going to award to, and you approved by the board was that Cunningham would bring their expertise and then DSGW would be the local representative throughout the construction. That would just continue for that space. And it was our thought that because that team, so DSGW is actually working underneath Cunningham for this price, and this is DSGW standing alone as just a separate entity.
This is the third meeting in a row we've looked at it. We've approved it. I'm not willing to retract my motion. It's a done deal. We approved the minutes.
When we
I
get,
appreciate the clarification.
it's clarified, when we get to this point, we'll handle it then.
Yep. I just wanted to make sure that you had clear information before you made a decision last time, and I think there was some confusion from.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have the questions answered so we could have, but we didn't.
Understood. So anyway, just to address the issue of somebody from out of town and more expenses, Cunningham, most of this design work is done electronically anyway nowadays, and DSGW has been the on-site representative. So just wanted you to have that information. We're going to ask, I understand that you had a vote already, but just clarify, with this clarification, do you want to change that or move forward? Because we need to get whatever team is selected to move forward on this, because that is also the team that I believe you want to have, whichever team you select, do the orthopedic associates. Because even though that isn't something you're paying for, as the owner of the building, you have say in that. And you.
Orthopedic Associates is probably going to bring their own design team in. They wouldn't probably use these firms to design what they want.
That's not true.
I guess it's, we've approved this bid. I, for one, am not willing to change my motion. It's part of the record now. I can't see us hiring someone. If someone wants to make a motion to hire someone else so we have two people do the same work, I
just think we're getting the information and it's an option that we have. We might get to that point where we decide we don't want to do it, but there may be.
All I'm saying is, why are we wasting our time right here, right?
It's just clarifying the record, and if we want to act on that.
I get it. I'm not willing to change my motion.
No, but other people.
Your motion is already done. It was approved. Now, so we can move along here, does anybody want to make a motion to look at this with this in mind, the new information?
I will make that motion.
We have a motion by Stacy.
Second it.
Second by Nicole.
And I guess for a discussion, if that was the arrangement with Cunningham and DSGW, why would they bid it that way?
Yeah.
Why would they, well, we're already on the project, we'll just fall under the Cunningham umbrella? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It made no sense that there was a bid and there was all this other stuff added to it. Expenses, there was all these, what were the expenses that were added to it?
Travel.
Travel.
All three
of them.
Reimbursables. They have very similar.
DSGW, on their back page has a whole list of what their expenses are too. So.
And to answer your question, DSGW would like to do the work, but they also are working with Cunningham already, and they were fine with that as well. But they did want to express that they're not saying they don't want to do the work for the school district. It's just the price is different. You're awarding on low price. I don't think you had good information because it was confusing in how that was put together in the letter. So that's why I brought it up.
How many children of DSGW employees are in our school district? Does anyone know that?
That is not within my purview.
But they're still doing the work. They're still doing the work with Cunningham.
They are.
And it's cheaper for our school day. We'll be saving almost $3,000.
Clarification, is this motion to hire someone else to do the exact same work that we already made a motion to hire someone to do? Because we already hired DSGW to do this work, and that's not changing.
But we have information that's clarified, and I made the motion to reconsider based on the information that we have.
That was 2 weeks ago. Have we hired them already and they've already begun, is what we're saying?
No.
They have not. Because
We are of record as hiring them.
Yes.
I am not willing to change that. We can hire
Dr. Schoberg,
the exact same work.
motion, this is what we're talking about. We have an opportunity to discuss. I'm looking at it saying they're cheaper, they're doing the work, they have DSGW. That's what my motion is.
I'm not willing to change my motion. We just approved
Matt,
minutes.
you don't have to change your motion.
I have now made a motion. There's been a second. There's been discussion. You can vote yes or no.
Correct.
Clarify, what is the motion? To hire
The motion,
Cunningham and
the motion,
DSGW?
the motion that I am hearing is that we are looking at it with the new knowledge that Cunningham is less expensive than DSGW, and all three of them, if you make the argument, why would they give it? Well, ARI also gave a bid too, and all three of them are working on all of our buildings. So is that correct?
My motion is for Cunningham because they're cheaper.
We've already
just answer.
passed a motion. It's part of the record to hire DSGW to do this.
Hey, Matt, you've been heard. I understand it. But with new information, there's a motion on the table to go with Cunningham, and it's been seconded.
This is ludicrous. Absolute.
Answer the previous question to me. Nobody has moved forward with this design at this time beyond the existing model that was done. Because when I received the direction to move forward, I looked at the paperwork and I saw that there was a discrepancy. So no, none of your funds have been expended in any way on this design.
I think part of it is that we like DSGW's local, so that was a big thing, but if we're still getting them, I
If
don't.
DSGW wanted to work with Cunningham on this, they would not have submitted a proposal.
By themselves.
I guess that's making an assumption. I've talked.
Well, it is. If they didn't want to bid, they wouldn't have bid.
They're happy to work either way is what they had told me when I talked to them on the phone. So it's up to you.
Crazy.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, so the motion is to reconsider and hire Cunningham for the design team for the wrestling and orthopedic associates in the district admin building. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
No.
And I'll abstain. I wasn't here for the last meeting.
So Stacy, you said aye.
Yes.
Bill, you said nay.
That is correct.
Nicole?
Aye.
Tom?
Yes.
Matt, you're a no.
Correct.
John?
John was a yes.
John's a yes. And Brandy abstained, and the chair votes yes.
So we just overturned a motion that we voted on at our last meeting.
Based on new information, we reconsidered and considering the state of the finances of the district, I think it's in the
It
district.
would be nice when people came and presented stuff, they were prepared to give us accurate information in the future.
Mistakes happen, and I do not place any blame on Cross Anderson whatsoever.
Very good. Passed it. Thank you.
I didn't place any blame on them either. They weren't here.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you.
Let's move on to budget.
Great.
So just a little update. Last time when we met, we talked about the North Star situation and how it was over budget. And we discussed the moving of funds from the demolition projects to the North Star current project. So we've done that. We've closed out the Laurentian project 99.9%. We have one issue that we're working through on the audiovisual and the data piece. So we've set some dollars aside for that, but we've pretty much got everything done except for a couple of paperwork things for change orders. So given that fact, we were able to move some funds from Laurentian over to North Star, about $160,000. We were able to go to the demolition, $3,729,000, moved over to North Star for a total of $3,889,054. So that's what we had talked about before. We didn't have those exact dollar amounts. We didn't know how this was all shaking out at the time. Just wanted to make you aware of that. We'll talk about the cost side later on when we talk about the North Star project. Any questions on that? So currently, excuse me, does somebody have a question?
No, I said,
Currently on the Laurentian project, that zeroes out then after we move those funds. On the high school, we're about 700 and some $1,000 that we currently are misaligned on, but we're working through a lot of that with the fundraising on some fundraising has been committed, but has not been cash in hand yet. So we've got that in hand as well, looking at that. The demolition currently is a balance because we took those funds and moved them to North Star. And North Star, we are sitting at about 1.3, is it 5?
Almost 1.4.
$1.4 million that we are misaligned on. We have a plan for all of this, not really starting to cut things too much, but we've got a PR, a pricing request from the architect on North Star to make up the difference for that. And we'll be getting that this week, and then we'll be putting a price together on that as well. So right now, we're about 2 million misaligned, but given the fact that that is approximately 1% of the overall budget, we feel comfortable with this at this point. There are things that we can do along the way. And this up and down is what happens as we go through this process of construction.
Excuse me, Pat, when you say fundraising, when we're taking fundraising dollars and we're putting them towards the demolition and towards the building of
the high school,
okay? I don't know if any other board member here has a problem with it, but when you do fundraising, that's for field improvements, for the betterment of the classrooms and such like that. But we're taking them and we're putting them into the hard costs of the buildings. I mean, does any board member have a problem with that?
I triggered that earlier today myself.
I mean, we're out there raising money for the school, and we're taking all that money that Mr. Speltz worked so hard on, who's in the audience, and we're taking them towards, we're taking money for pencils and we're using it for cement for the building, you know what I'm saying? Or
I would think, and maybe Willie can correct me, but if I'm understanding correctly, the things that we've already approved and money we've already accepted, donations, that's already earmarked for something. If somebody wanted to donate money, and specifying that, they want it to go towards demolition, then that's a whole nother thing. That's, they're making a donation towards that. But I would think the funds that Willie has been raising for scoreboards or whatever, the naming of different classrooms and things like that, that's already earmarked towards that. So we wouldn't be able to be putting that towards any kind of demolition.
So
it's been disappointing for me too, and we've talked about this many other times. This money was raised to make our facilities a little bit nicer than nice and what was originally budgeted for. And as soon as he raises $5, and now it's before he raises $5, it looks like it's going into the construction budget to pay for the floor.
That is not accurate. So let me explain a little bit. A couple of things happened. If you remember way back when we bid this project, the high school, it was $5 million over budget. And we came up with value engineering items to get it back within budget. We proposed those to you, well, first to the advisory team, and some of those items found their way back into the budget, and some of those were cut, indeed. Some of those have come back through fundraising, like you had said. So if there was an item that was cut on the value engineering to get within budget, but somebody earmarked, I want that to happen, and here's the dollars for it, we meet once a month with Spencer and Willie and Jeff Carey, and we go through that. And if there's something earmarked for something specific, then that's where those dollars go to. So it isn't the fact that we are taking this fundraising money and pouring it back into something you already approved. If you really want to look at it that way, the $5 million that we cut out originally, we had to make up that dollar amount in value engineering, and then we still have to pay for that if you want to add that back in. And that's where a lot of these dollars have gone up to this.
What if we had no fundraising efforts at all?
Then we would have had to not include a lot of those items that were on the value engineering log.
I would look at it as these people are giving, money, such as there's a person in the audience that gave money to the weight room, and you would hope that his money would go to buy weight equipment.
And I.
Oh, I mean, he donated money and it would be earmarked for weight equipment. The money that I personally donated, I hope it goes towards equipment in the rooms that I donated to.
And
You know?
we can go through that spreadsheet with you in detail because it does allocate dollars to various items within the project itself.
Because I think, people watching this are going to get turned off by the fact that, well, if I donate money there, it's going to go to help build the building.
I guess what I'm saying is don't be turned off.
Oh,
Because your dollars are going to the items that you designate when you do your fundraising.
Could you just give us a couple of examples, just in case there are people watching, as far as what people have donated and specifically gotten for the buildings?
Yeah.
So that we know it's not nails and,
Willie, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but in our meetings that we have once a month, I mean, let's just talk. We've got naming rights for gyms. We have various items that we have put on this docket, and we've allocated funds specifically for it. Do you have a concern about this, I guess, from your
No,
side?
there's times when money comes up and we have shortfalls in track and field equipment, right? Maybe we have, I don't even want to say numbers, and I'm not the budget guy or anything, but we're raising money to get bigger and better, more nicer, a lot more branded type stuff. That's what we're, doing with that. So then we have the meeting and find out that we have $30,000 worth of track equipment. Do we have, and we want, we have 15,000 budgeted, we have 30,000 in needs. We'll take 15,000 more of the fundraised money that people gave for track and field equipment and be able to fill that bucket so that we can get the 30,000 that we want versus the 15,000 that was planned. That's a classic example. But I'm just tasked at raising the money. That's and when people tell me exactly where they want it to go, that's where it goes. When we have unallocated funds, that's when we fill other pots in those once a month meetings.
And I would assume, Willie, if you weren't comfortable with something that was going on, you would say something.
Correct.
Okay.
The scenario I would look at, Willie, is that naming something and someone gives $300,000 for the naming rights.
There's a lot of unallocated.
There's a lot of unallocated money in there except putting their name on. And that is being utilized to make our school bigger and better.
Correct.
Okay.
And when it's something outside of the plans, like band uniforms, then that doesn't get brought into the account. And it's a collaborative thing that's done each month with those individuals that meet for that budget.
I think at the very many months ago, we took the lights out for the baseball fields and then we put them back in. So it's a give and a take on these things. So thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Willie.
Thanks.
And you too.
You bet. I'm not doing very well in my time, though, am I? We put all these up front so you can just shoot at me and be worn out before I give you the rest of my team.
that's a good PM.
So this is your 30,000-foot level of your projects. Laurentian Elementary, like I had said, we're just working on a couple of items on the IT side, working with Mike and Bill Bryson, and we're getting real close on those. The high school, look, we're about 67.5% complete on the high school right now on that bar. North Star Elementary, we've started some demolition in the basement. I think we made too much noise for Scott. That's why he bumped me on the agenda here today. But we're doing some work down there in preparation for the mechanical units that'll go into there. And on the demolition side, we're getting really close here. As soon as school is out and the move is done at Roosevelt, then we'll get into the hazardous material abatement and into the demolition. So at a snapshot, those are the percentages of each of those. You're 61% spent, 39% unspent at this time.
So that when the kids move into the high school, Pat, will they be able to utilize that gym for anything, or will it be just for equipment and stuff like that?
We're actually working through that with them right now because there are two gyms in the high school.
Right.
I believe most of the FIAT is going to remain in those, but we haven't totally worked that out. Right now, what we're using down in the basement, the old wrestling area, because the new wrestling area will move here. we're using that more to stage materials at this time.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right. I am going to be followed by Pete Ovenen. He's going to give you a quick last presentation on Laurentian.
Yep, that's one.
All right, I warm up for you. Keep going.
Not so fast, Pete.
I'm still here. I thought I was going to have to go sit down there for a while.
Not sure why this keeps disconnecting. Sorry about that.
Watch it, Mike, or you're gonna get it too. Watch it, or you're gonna get it.
Still working on the little IT things up there to make sure this doesn't.
Yeah, we should come with one computer next time.
Right? Oh, it's right there. It's ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for having me again. Unfortunately, you will have to put up with me for quite a few more board meetings, so all the way through 24, unlike Paul Nolan, he gets to get out of here. So, talk about Laurentian. Should be the last quarterly report for Laurentian, and we'll move on from there. So, our agenda, you'll see they're going to be very similar for all the projects. Our core four, I think Paul Nolan coined that phrase. So safety, schedule, budget, quality. There might be a variation of which order we go in, but our core four will always be talked about. So first up, safety. It's always first, right? So big deal on Laurentian. It even says it right there. This is a big deal. 0 lost time incidents, 0 citations, and 0 additional COVID cases after the pandemic hit and everything. So a big shout out to Jim Roy, our site superintendent and our safety champion for that job. And a big shout out to all the contractors that worked on the job. You figure that was year and a half, going on almost 2 years of a project, $34 million and 0 injuries, 0 citations. That's huge. Big deal.
I'm just gonna.
All right. Schedule, speaking of duration. Maybe I should have put that 99.9% like Pat said, because we are working on those IT things and making sure all the audio visual is just the way you want it and working great for the kids come September. But overall, 100% complete once we get that wrapped up. So, upcoming. May 3rd, next week, Cunningham will be on site to do a photo shoot, kind of stage some kids and staff in there to get their shindig, kind of their name out there and take some professional photos. But then the big date, right here, May 4th, next Wednesday, grand opening ceremony. Stacy's been doing a lot of planning. Noel, I'm sure, has been planning. It's all Stacy. Okay.
It all went back to Stacy.
So we're going to join, and you'll have to listen to me there because I was voluntold to do a speech for Kraus Anderson on behalf of them for that. So I think, Stacy, you got that note. So May 4th, 5 p.m., correct? Grand opening, big deal, celebration. Paul Noel Graphics, help me out, thank you. So then come later in May, we do have to move in, so we got to do some work. Once Roosevelt and Franklin are wrapped up on the 27th, right after Memorial Day, we'll come back, start moving in, and you got all summer to move in. I'm sure they will try to get it done before their summer starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then
one thing I want to add on the photos, those professional photos, you will have access to those as well, so that it kind of, your school is brand new and set up, and before it ever gets lived in, you'll have those photos on file that you can have.
And then the other big date is September 6th. So right after Labor Day, school starts. First classes going in Laurentian Elementary. Big, exciting news, right? So budget. Pat mentioned I was going to talk about costs a little bit. He did touch on the big number there, the $160,000 that was essentially saved from Laurentian is now moved over into the North Star to help out with their budget issues over there. So that's just another iteration of that. Obviously, 100% spent now. We're done, capped off over there. Contingency was down to 0, and that's one thing to keep in mind. I think way back when we said, think of contingency as being 0 when you see that number up there at the end of the day, and we spent it all and then some. So quality. God, I love that graphic. Okay, so quality, I just want to wrap up Laurentian with a few exterior photos because I'm not sure if everyone saw it before that nasty white stuff hit the ground. So to start it off, the sun has set on Laurentian. Don't ask me who came up with it.
That's a nice picture, though.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Man, that's nice.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
So,
Best.
those of you watching at home, this is standing on the roof looking out towards the Thunderbird mine and watching the sun set over Laurentian. That's our parking lot there. Again, same day, sunset, looking at the front entry. And we wrap around the building to the loading dock, and you can see the swing set area here that we put in, and also the playground area. And then moving around the corner to the courtyard area, kind of the focal point of Laurentian, right? So lots of photos of this one. Wrapping around, we got the natural rock, a river of concrete. See how that looks like a river? Maybe we should have put it blue or something, I don't know. But you can do a lot of outdoor learning out here. There's seating, lots of beautiful plantings, good mixture of landscaping out there. Kudos to Kimley Horn and all the contractors that put it in. So that's all I got on Laurentian. Is that
Very
fast
nice.
enough?
And probably
That's good.
the next day.
Yeah, literally, like still the next day.
Very nice, thank you.
All right.
Hey, can we get you to wear a suit for that presentation?
I don't think I own a suit.
Pat will help you out.
Specify and say not swimsuit. You gotta watch him. You gotta watch him.
How about only if you wear one, Tom?
I'll spruce up a little bit.
Because I will.
I don't think they like my work.
Excellent. Well, while we're loading up for the next presentation, just for the record, this is Paul Knoll speaking for the Rock Ridge High School project. We've had some really exciting progress over the last 90 days, and at some point in the next quarter and at the convenience of the board, we'd love to take you on another progress walkthrough of your building, maybe sneak in one, maybe two more before the project is final complete too. So we can arrange that through Stacy and Noel. But welcome. I will make my comments brief. Here is an overall shot of your project. This was taken back in the March timeframe. You can really get a sense of the entire shape of the building here. All the roofs are on, all the envelope is complete. Your boardwalk from the building over to the ball fields is in, and the building is really looking fantastic from not only the outside, but significant progress going on in the inside as well. All right. This shot, I was trying to get into your ball fields as the focus, but it really gave a nice snapshot of the overall campus too. I'll just cover a couple of these red boxes here. So Laurentian, we know that project is complete, and we're ready for traffic to start resuming here coming in September timeframe. Just wanted to note that that wrestling space, the target is for the October timeframe to have that space ready. And we've got a little bit of tuning up to do, a little bit of paving coming up, but looking at a late summer, early fall, done completion date for these ball fields up here. And just to note, we'll talk a little bit later about current student construction projects. This is where your students in your district are working right now, constructing 2 dugouts for the varsity softball field at this time.
Paul, when will the construction begin on the stadium and that area?
Yeah, so as soon as weather allows, the target was for actually Monday today to get restarted on construction of the stadium. Grandstand footings will be first with major earthwork right after that. So anytime in the next 7 days as weather allows, as frost out allows. All right, and just a shot of the stadium. I'll start with the big red box again. We will be done with the stadium this year by the close of asphalt plants, by the close of the fall timeframe, and by the first snowfall, this whole stadium area will be at its 100% complete mark. All right, we'll hit the core 4 really quick, just give a statement about each one of these. So up to just short of 400,000 hours of labor time invested by your contractors, still at that 150 hours per day, or 150 workers per day, 1,200 hours per day. There was one day lost time injury from a trip and a wrist sprain in the January timeframe, but that individual is very happily back to work on the project. So bottom line summary, safety going very well on this project site as well. All right, on the budget side of things, There was an additional commitment of about $300,000 into the Rock Ridge High School project. It was our only change on the funding column side of things. You are over $120 million of funding into your Rock Ridge High School project now. And, oh, yes, just another statement of a Willie S. success. He's back in that office there, but you don't see this in.
Sending Paul a text that I want those pictures for more PR. So.
Excellent, there you go.
Well, take a bow while you're at it.
Yeah, you can take a bow. So we work with many districts. I have not seen a fundraising campaign that's been this successful to date. And from the commitments that have still been pledged, this number is going to get larger too, at least in fundraising for the district. So well done.
Could you just say again how much Willie has been able to raise in fundraising for us?
Yeah, so the total recognized for cash in hand that's been brought into the construction projects, at least there's some more that has just been used on other things. About 1.75 million is the current total.
Thank you.
We usually clap at the monthly meeting.
Yeah.
Subtle, Pat, subtle.
Excellent. Like Patrick mentioned, we've been working on making the entire Rock Ridge High School column solvent since day number 1 of the project. So we're now 20 months into this process with another 10 months left to go. We're down to $725,000 of alignment left from that original $5.5 to $6 million. And we have a way forward to this too over the course of the next 10 months here. Okay. And so that $725,000 that's left, that's less than 1% of the total value of the project. So we've got 0.6% left to reconcile on the project. And the strategy for achieving that would be for being as responsible as possible with the contingency as the entire team and your advisory team has been this entire time. Working with fundraising and bringing that into the project as appropriate, limiting unfunded additional increases to the project or true adds, taking a close look at what's going to be left in allowances and general conditions. As we approach that 80 to 90% complete mark on the project, that's when we start to get a much better comfort level of idea of how much is going to be saved on the project. You've talked in the past about reuse of furniture. The furniture is being bid right now, actually. So that'll help solidify that $4 million budget line, and we'll know what the adjustments needed are there. And then looking at any other value management that might be left. This is just one example of a strategy to be able to reconcile that gap. If you were to say do nothing else for the next 10 months, this is a financial formula of how you would be able to do it. Looking through those lines, this is a very accomplishable goal, and 0.6% is something that is able to be reconciled on a project of this scale over the next 10 months process too. But it's a continuous process of refinement like we've spoken about this entire time. Things get added, things get deleted, funding gets contributed, and bids come in for things like furniture, and it makes an impact, and we adjust.
Paul, I couldn't read my numbers from your January presentation, but from your presentation from last October, project was $175,000 over budget. And I thought I just heard it had come down from 5 million to 725,000. Actually, it's gone up in the last 6 months from 175,000 to 725,000. What?
It does adjust each quarter. Sometimes it goes upwards, sometimes it goes downwards. There was one big initial chunk down, and then it's been bouncing back and forth between $0 to $1 million as information comes in over the course of the last about 2 quarters, 3 quarters.
Okay.
All right. So just some supplemental information on a new topic regarding the budget on the project. There have been several requests by your awarded contractors for add change orders specifically due to alleged material price increases. The listing is shown here. Right now, your contractors have asked you for about $350,000 extra dollars purely related to material markets and procurements. To date, and unless directed otherwise by the board, we have rejected all of those cost claims on your behalf. The items listed out here, $140,000 from the locker scope due to metal prices, $100,000 on the finished carpentry scope due to metal-faced finished carpentry panels, $60,000 on the paving side of things due to the cost of oil, and then $45,000 requested by the elevators because of metal-oriented items. So, there we go. So, again, the board and the district does not have to grant these requests for costs. You have lump sum, hard bid, publicly bid contracts already awarded with these contractors, and unless we were directed by you otherwise, you are not legally obligated to move forward with these additions unless you elected to do so.
And the purpose of going over this today is just so you're aware of it in case you're approached, okay? But this is an issue right now, as you well know, not just in the construction market, but in pretty much every market, that the procurement conditions that we currently have are a challenge, but we have to hold to those contracts, and that's what we're doing. Yep.
All right, very good. On the project, you have spent 68% of your funds for the Rockridge High School project, and you are 66% complete in time. Those percentages are very close to each other, so you're doing great with the amount of cash that you're expending and when. And on the contingency side of things, you've got about $160,000 in the contingency fund right now, and that would be after this period's commitment of about $300,000 of fundraising. Okay, moving on to the third of the core four. Again, you're done with 20 months, you got 10 months left to go. I'm loving the proportion of green to red here. It's very promising. Starting next week, we'll be going through a 7-month-long process, going through space by space and putting it under our own microscope and the design team's microscope and starting the quality process of making sure that things are installed and working the way that they are intended to. It's just going to take a very long time for a building of this size to give it the time and attention that it needs to make sure that everything was done correctly.
And you have representatives in that punch list process, obviously, to go through with it.
Okay. And then under the quality side of things, again, on the Career Academy model, the next student construction projects, Morgan, actually, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, take this if I need. So the building of the softball varsity dugouts has begun. Because of weather, they have done some work actually in the classrooms, prefabricating some of the things that are needed for that. They're planning to be on site from the beginning of May through the end of school, weather permitting. But they are again working on the varsity softball dugouts, hoping to work on the baseball varsity dugouts in the fall, and then the storage buildings. So for mentorship, we've had the site tours available. We haven't turned down any opportunity or suggestions yet. We're working with Willie to get these things underway. And we have completed, or we as in the project team, contractors, us, 181 hours. These are just some fun photos from the St. Germain's tour. As you can see, they got some experience with the estimating, project management side of things, and then also in the shop and seeing where the fabrication happens. Do you have any questions on that portion? Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Morgan. Just remember that those 181 hours, those were spent with groups of 5 to 40 plus students, and so you can multiply that number by much larger to get an idea of the total educational impacts too. Okay, our final part of the presentation is a quick comparison of what the rendering was now 20 plus 12, 32 months ago when the project was designed versus where we are today. The biggest change here was that the weathering metal steel panels on your front elevation have now been installed. And your beautiful wood curtain walls are in too. All right, stepping inside of the main entry doors now, you're inside of your main commons. Really get a sense of these small group learning spaces and breakout spaces that overhang the commons area. All right, inside you can see, again, this is just another shot of your beautiful wood curtain wall here. You can see that's now been installed. It looks very impressive in real life. This is a shot of the lower level of your commons in the presentation plaza area. All right, now stepping inside one of the learning neighborhoods, this is the first level. Another big change since we've even taken the pictures is these demountable walls here have begun to arrive to the job site. Things are really coming along inside of the building. You can get a sense of the weathering that's starting to occur. Again, these are going to turn that bright orange color. That process you can just see has begun to start here. All right, and a lot of work happening inside the Performing Arts Center. And here is your main athletic commons right in between the gymnasium and the aquatics area.
Unbelievable.
All right. And here's a shot of the main gymnasium. This is a good example of a fundraising additive. You wouldn't have had this great and amazing Jumbotron scoreboard without that fundraising process. It would have just been a normal 4-foot by 8-foot board that would have been on the wall. Great. So that's our succinct presentation for Rockridge High School. Any questions for me at this time?
Paul, we talked about the prices of stuff going up, and I understand that in this project, there's lots of metal being supplied by the HVAC contractors and everything else, and what I don't understand is, were some of these people that were bidding this stuff did they not order this stuff right when they were awarded the bid, or what's the problem? I understand the asphalt people, they can't finish because, of course, your stuff is in the way. Okay, I get that, but, what was there a reasoning for their price increases on the metal stuff?
Yeah, so when a contractor chooses to move forward with their ordering is oftentimes a big part of the strategy of how they're running their company. Sometimes they do annual bulk purchasing, et cetera, et cetera. We did offer to pay any contractor at the time that they bought things, even if it was on the first day after they got their contract. We said, if you purchase your material so that you can lock in those prices that might only be good for 60 days to their supplier, you can purchase that. We will pay you for that. We'll find a place for it on the job site, and you can store that here. And the contractors that were able to take advantage of that or elected to take advantage of that didn't experience as much of an issue with this. Some people, like you mentioned with the asphalt, are constrained to order only when that product is needed or only when the latest technology comes out. And so there's a lot of different variables that factor into that. Do you have anything else, Patrick?
Just if you notice that gymnasium picture, all of those materials in there, that was an example of how we brought all that material in ahead of time. I think some contractors too thought the pricing was going to come down, as did we. No, I don't think anybody really predicted this was going to drag on this long. So some of them waited and kind of bet on that and did not win on that situation. But that isn't something that the district should pay for. So.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
I have one for you, Paul. Did you arrange all this rain to weather those panels? Because I just...
As much as I love the natural weathering panels, I am more for earthwork progress than I am for weathering.
That'll be clear. Go ahead.
I have one question. You said you're leaving sometime soon?
Negative. I will certainly be here full-time through the end of the project.
Oh.
I think Pete was saying he'll be here longer because he's just starting the North Star project. It's a little
good.
competition these two have.
Pete will be around 1 year longer because of just the timing of construction. Yeah.
Very good.
So Paul, for clarification, again, you did give those contractors that were awarded the bids for these projects the opportunity to purchase all their stuff for the project, and you would store that and pay for it until the product was used, till it was needed, correct?
Yep, expediting of the submittal process, offering to pay for it right up front, so it's not a cash flow issue for them. and arranging for some sort of storage, taking as much on the job site as possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Pete to speak about the North Star project.
I'm back again. It's the last time tonight, though. Then I'm going to give it to Morgan to wrap everything up. So, moving on to North Star Elementary, and I guess to piggyback on what you guys were just talking about at the high school, we're doing the same at North Star, asking for expedited submittals, ordering materials, and actually we have some foam that's under slab foam sitting in our laydown area right outside of the Virginia gym there right now. So we don't need that till maybe this winter, and we have it already. So just an example of what we're doing there. So. Okay.
It's inside a fence, by the way.
It is.
I did see that.
Core 4 again, safety, schedule, budget, quality. Safety first. We have gotten started on site, and I'll kind of talk about that when I hit schedule. But thus far, no injuries, no COVID cases, and OSHA consultation. Our first one will probably be correlating with the high school's October one, because that's when we really start our construction in September. So then we'll have them come out and help us consult on some safety items. So schedule, as I promised. So this is our new site design that I'll get to in the quality portion. So big items here. We are starting down in the basement of the gym, which I'll show you some photos later. We're doing a selective demo this spring and getting ready for our mechanical units, boilers to come in. And actually, they're going to be in sooner than we thought. They're going to come in early June. So we're going to be doing some activity around the site. We're there right now, getting prepped for those. We're going to drop them in the gym early June and start getting them all hooked up and ready to go. Some of the other stuff that we'll be doing throughout the summer, getting ready for Morgan's big demo that I won't spoil, are some temporary modifications that we got to move some stuff from the Roosevelt into the Malone Annex portion and kind of make a route around, so electrical, mechanical, plumbing, that kind of stuff. So that's what we're doing this summer, and Morgan's going to do her thing. And then in the fall, September 6th, right after Labor Day, we're going to start breaking ground and putting foundations in for the North Star, the new school. So Morgan's going to get that site cleared off. And
Pete, can you orient everybody on the existing gym, where Roosevelt currently is and where the high school currently is?
Yeah.
Just so they have that reference.
No problem. So existing gym right here, and we're working down in the basement, down in this corner where the 2 locker rooms are right now. And the Roosevelt sits right about here. So Morgan will take care of that. And then this is the new North Star, of course. The Malone Annex is sitting right here, which that'll be 23. And then this is the existing high school, or some people know it as the tech building. So, and actually we're officing, me and Jim right now, and then I'll come in the fall, officing right out of this corner right here. So if you ever need to come see us, we're right there. What else? I think that's it. Completion in January 5th of 24. So that's where I'm here a year longer than Paul, because he'll be wrapped up in January of 23. The existing gym remodel, that includes everything upstairs too, the refinishing of the floor and some graphics and that kind of stuff. So pretty it up a little bit. Any questions on schedule?
Yes, I do. I don't like your schedule at all, to be honest with you.
No?
This is going to be completed January 5th, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
School closes. There are 3, maybe 7 days to clean that building out. What would be the difference to move that up a week or 2 longer? Instead of starting constructions on September 6th, you could start on September 16th. I don't care, but what's the purpose of this real quick close?
Quick close on...
The way it's been described, we have 4 to 7 days after school gets out to empty out that entire Roosevelt, get everything out of it. What's the hurry? Why are those dates so important? That's what I'm asking.
So the reason for that is because in order to start the North Star, we need to remove the Roosevelt building first. So we need time to abate the Roosevelt and also then demo it to create a new flat site for the North Star to start. So, and that takes from June 13th all the way to September 2nd is that duration of abatement and demo. Sorry, Morgan, I'm stealing your thunder.
Why don't you back up one slide? I think one other thing that you're keying in on is the project. Look at each of the dates here, Pete, because he's trying to go through this relatively quick. When you look at the North Star Elementary project in 24, a big part of that is you've got site work to do, right? That you can't get done the previous winter.
Correct. So in 22, when we start this, obviously we're starting in the fall, so can't really do much site work as we're putting the foundations and everything. And then you hit winter. Then you have the summer of 23, which we could do some site work depending on where we're at with the building. However, we have that Malone and Annex sitting right here. And we can't do any of this work, which this is the most extensive work down here. If you see the concrete, playground, basketball court, that kind of thing, until that Malone and Annex. Because that Malone and Annex comes right about here. So we need to get that out of the way to finish this side of the site.
And you can't do that until the high school is completed and everyone's moved over to here. So it's a sequential thing. Complete the high school, move them out, tear down the Malone Hall and the Annex, and then complete the site work.
So what, in your time frame, how long does it take to abate that building? The Roosevelt and the Annex?
Go ahead and speak to that.
I can't remember because Morgan's probably got it on the slide.
We'll be going over all the demo, if you can hold that for just a moment.
We'll hold it. I've been holding it for weeks. A couple more minutes won't matter.
But it basically takes 2 months, June and July, into July to get the abatement done. And then we have to do the demolition, which is part of July and all of August, which allows us then to start construction in September. Those are the general time frames.
I think you have it on your previous slide.
Do you feel that it should be done differently? And if
I do. I'm thinking this.
What would you like to do?
Well, school's gonna get out and, like it or not, all the cabinetry throughout that building, these are taxpayer dollars. I'm not gonna let any one piece of that being crushed. I'll be the guy standing out there when you have the wrecking ball instead of, I'm just telling you, it's,
And we'll help you with that.
there's so much of that stuff that has to come out of that building. And Noel's told me we could even have up to 7 days. 7 days doesn't do it.
So is that your issue, the time from school closing to the time for salvage? Is that your concern? We can work around those. Understand that we have to turn the building over for hazardous material abatement. So if we have enclosures, and we obviously can't have you going in and out of the enclosure when they're abating those items for schedule. But if you have something specific that you want to be retained, taken out, talk to Jeff Carey. We do planning with him all the time. We get to our AT meetings and we can work a plan.
I don't want something, I want all of it.
So one other clarification too is.
Easy, Pat, I'm easy.
I understand that.
The Roosevelt, I believe, is actually ending school May 27th, right? And then we wouldn't start abatement until June 13th. So it's, I think, 2 weeks on that.
Again, I'm putting the cart before the horse because we don't even have an outlet to dispose of this material or what to do with this material, but it's still.
But we have to keep.
You mean the salvage materials?
The salvage material, but it's still taxpayer dollars.
You come up with that plan, come talk to us, we'll work with you. Get that hammer out, get the tool belt, pull the trailer up, and we're on it.
I'm not insured, I guess, because.
Okay. Did you want the other dates for the abatement and the demo?
No.
No? Okay.
I know where to find Pat and I know where to find Jeff, so.
Exactly.
You answered my question.
Perfect. And since we came back to this, I did want to point out, I'll get to that later. Yeah, sorry. All right, budget. So we talked about the misalignment already and the reallocation of funds, so I'm not going to spend much time on there.
Could you go back? I wasn't able to see that slide. Thank you.
Yep.
Good. The current budget is the 33.
Yep, 33.6 million. total funding. So that's our master referendum budget, similar to the other projects. And then we did look at where the misalignment came in. Most of it was from FF&E and technology and general conditions. So the big question is, what do we do next, right? How do we alleviate the misalignment? So always got to have a plan moving forward. Paul Knoll had a plan. We got a plan too. So we're going to continue with our value management. That Pat mentioned that we are going to get the PR for some of that coming this Friday. So we'll get some pricing on that. Also looking at reviewing and adjusting some of the fixtures and furniture, equipment and technology budgets, and look at those and some of the materials there, and we can save some money.
Well, excuse me, what was the misalignment on general conditions?
Yep, so as you know, materials have gone up, fuel has gone up, and everything, kind of where Paul was talking about the metal and all that kind of stuff. Well, general conditions is your materials, fuel, equipment to build the project. So as those costs went up, the general conditions did go up as well.
By how much?
About $500,000 from the original budget.
From what to what?
491 to just over 1 million.
So more than doubled? I mean, the price of gas has gone up, but it hasn't doubled yet.
Yeah, fuel is just one example of one of the items that has climbed. Yeah.
And this has climbed since we awarded the bids in March, is what you're saying?
Correct. So like we mentioned on previous project, how the budgets fluctuate up and down throughout the construction when you asked about the why was it 175 and now it's 725 on the high school. So the same thing, it does fluctuate up and down. So as things have risen, we accounted for that in our general conditions.
Yeah, one direction to me, but yeah, I'd like to get some information if you can, general conditions and what was budgeted and on the furniture, just the general conditions.
And keep in mind, this is the budget, because costs have gone up so much. We want to make sure that we have fenced enough funds in the general conditions to do the job. Any dollars that are not spent in general conditions come back just like we rolled them from Laurentian over to North Star. This is the last project. If we save dollars on these, they come
I'm
back.
just curious, over 100% increase in a month and a half, I just want to have to see what it is.
Okay.
No problem. So a few other items. So there's 5 bullet points here. I talked about the first 2. The next one, possible state funding that you're probably all aware of. You hired a lobbyist to go down and fight for some money for you. So that's a possibility. There is a sales tax refund bill. So that's like on your tax exempt material only contracts. And so that's all getting worked out now too. And Paul Knoll's doing the same thing, helping John Hunick on that. And then possible fundraising. Our faithful Willie. He's already got some for North Star that's been allocated to the project from a donor, and hopefully he can find some more.
On that state funding, we've provided a lot of the cost data to go into those bills. We've been working between Noel and the consultants. Anything you want to update on, Noel, from that standpoint?
The only thing I will update to the board is I probably testified on 3 or 4 of these bills in the House and the Senate. The most recent one was the sales tax refund bill going before the Senate. So it's moving on. That's hopeful because it hasn't stopped, which is a really good sign. Now, we don't know if these will work in the end, but you have a lot of people working for you. There's a lot of people working behind the scenes to make this happen. I'm somewhat optimistic that something is going to break in our favor and help us out here, but we just need to wait for and see what the politicians actually do. I believe Rockridge, we have the strongest case, bar none, because of the incredible cost increases, because what happened here is very unusual compared to what's happening elsewhere. I'm going to be very brief, Pete. I don't want to steal your thunder.
That's all right.
We passed, the voters were very kind and generous and said, yes, in May of 2019. We started construction on 2 buildings shortly after that. The third building, the North Star building, that was delayed because we simply had to wait until we could move kids from one building to another building. So there was a delay that almost never happens in construction. And so just because we had to wait till buildings were done, there was a delay, and that's what caught us because of the COVID incredible price increase. So that's a great story to tell. We're just not pleading for money. There's a reason. We budgeted it correctly. The numbers were done correctly at the time we went to the bond. It's COVID increase. How could we have predicted that in 2019 and even 2018 when we were looking at the numbers? So we're hopeful that something will happen.
And that time frame would be what, Dr. Schmidt?
I believe we will know by early June whether we have been successful in any of this. But you have a lot of people working for you and are really interested in having this happen.
I know there was a bill introduced, at least in the House, that sought $6.7 million for the district because of the extraordinary situation that you mentioned, along with money, I know, for Ely, and then there's one, Mabel Canton, I think. Do you know the status of that bill?
There's Plan A, and then there's Plan B, and then there's Plan C. That's how the political process works. So that may have to be changed a little bit. So that one has shifted into another possibility involving the taconite taxes. And so it's still a possibility, Matt, but our lobbyists are working to have a backup. So if that doesn't work, they have another plan that they can use and bring before that will be palatable and might work.
It's evolving.
So you're saying that House File 4236 is not moving like you wanted to?
I am more optimistic about, Bill, about some other things moving forward than that particular one in the way it originally was worded.
Okay.
I believe, however, it's going to come up again in a different form.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt. So we did spend some money so far. Obviously, we started selective demo. We had all the design costs up front, bidding process, that kind of thing. So we spent a few dollars. We haven't spent any contingency, but remember what I said in the first presentation. Just think of that number as 0, because it most likely will be spent throughout the project on unforeseen. So quality. God, I love this one. So I held off on the earlier one when I had it up here, but Kimley Horn really did a nice job with the site redesign. As you know, we picked that course of action 6, where we had to leave the tech building up and take the loan and annex only. So we had to shift some things around to get everything that this site wants and deserves, right? So basketball court was a big one. That was down here, and you can see this is where the existing building is and going to remain for now. And we shifted it up to here, so we fit that in here. We got some nice plantings to surround it. And then the playground was actually off the screen here, and we shifted that up to here. Almost the same square footage, within a couple hundred square feet, so really close to the same. We did get some Foursquare and other hardscape play areas incorporated along here. And I know an important part of doing the site redesign to make sure we get separation between the existing building and the new building. And we do that with this emergency access road that was always part of the plan, but now we're really using it to our advantage in this case to leave that there and have some trees to really separate this brand new building from the old existing one. And can't forget about boulders, big beautiful boulders from Laurentian and the high school that we're bringing over to North Star to incorporate in the site. So they all get tied together a little bit, right? Rock Ridge, right?
From a supervision standpoint, this really brought all of these up closer to the building. They're a lot easier to observe, so look for positives in redesigns, right? Those We utilized the whole site before. We were down into here. Would have been a little difficult to be able to see if something was happening down there other than having a teacher out there on the grounds. So hopefully this will help with that as well. So you'll have good lines of sight on those.
How does the play area compare to Laurentian's play area? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know about square footage wise, but they do have a playground up there, and we have a playground here. There is space down here for, they have hardscape expansion or something like that in the future, or swings or whatever you might want there. So
I think the major difference is there's a separate one there for pre-K, and then the regular one. So I think this is comparable, Jeff, when you went through and looked at playground equipment, comparable to what we have at Laurentian for the main one. Is that correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell me if it's a little different.
No, it's size-wise, it's both the same minus the swing set.
Okay.
any other questions about this new awesome site? Okay, a little bit of selective demo. The picture might be a little deceiving because we're not doing full demo yet, just selective demo. So, just some pictures down in the existing locker room, taking out ceilings, we're taking out block walls. We salvaged the lockers. I think they're only, 4 or 5 years old or something down there. So we salvaged those as they're waiting to be reused somewhere. Took out the locker bases, and we'll patch those. Took out some CMU walls. Got all the rubble down there, and get that cleaned up and get the space prepped for the mechanical units coming in early June.
So that's boilers, generator, and your main electric service for the new building as well as the existing gym. That goes in that corner.
All in the next month and a half.
All right.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to hand it over to Morgan.
Yeah, Pete, I was just going to ask a question as an HVAC guy when it come to the North Star. I mean, to the Laurentian, were we able to take advantage? I know it's off topic, but were we able to take advantage of any sort of electrical or gas company rebates at all on all the high efficiency equipment there?
That is a possibility to work through. Oh, that's VPU over there.
No, I'm talking
about
Laurentian.
Yes.
Laurentian's Minnesota Power.
Yep. So that process is working through with the design team in Minnesota Power. But we'll have to look at North Star with VPU.
I know they've had a couple of meetings with the design team on that.
Okay. Because I know some of the rebates are pretty substantial.
I don't know if they're, and you were starting down that trail, and VPU I don't think has as robust of a rebate program as Minnesota Power did.
I don't think they do at all, to be honest with you.
We're going for whatever we can up there at the Laurentian.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tell you.
All right, you might have forgot my name because they took so long.
We saved the best for last, Morgan.
Well, Paul's still up after me, but
I retract that statement.
Might be on the agenda, but we might not get there.
I'm a project engineer with Crow Sanderson. I got the demolition piece. Pete handed it over to me. He started it off. Now I get to live out every girl's dream and do demolition.
Yeah.
All right, our agenda, we'll go over the hazardous materials and demo update, budget update, closing comments and questions. See, my agenda's even smaller. The Evelyn Junior High School, no update on that as that project has been complete last year. Emmanuel Arts Building, demolition is pending right now, awaiting official SHPO and City of Evelyn approval. We are seeing positive things coming out of that. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we are expecting spring and summer demolition.
Has the district submitted, I mean, last I talked to the city, I was told that the city has done everything they were waiting on the district. Has that been done?
I'm assuming what she's referring to is SHPO required a historical mitigation plan.
Yes, yep.
And yes, that was submitted and has been approved by SHPO. We're in the process of completing that mitigation.
Okay, thank you.
Overall for Evelyn, we have these 4 different projects on hold. As of now, the only project that we are following through with besides Old Junior High School that we've already taken down, is the Manual Arts Building that I just talked about. Virginia campus milestones, this will answer your question, Tom, on the dates. So the abatement of hazardous materials will begin on the 13th of June through the 15th of July. The demolition work will be from 18th July to the 2nd of September, starting with that 06 date for the North Star construction. Annex and Malone abatement next year, so 2023, it will be the 12th of June through the 7th of July. And Annex Malone demolition will be the 10th of July through the 4th of August. And again, that's 2023. All right, this is just a graphic kind of iteration of what I just went through. As of now, the existing high school is on hold for demolition and abatement. You have the Annex and Malone, and then the Roosevelt with the existing gym remaining. Pete's going to pretty that up. Gilbert campus bidding milestones, I will be presenting afterwards for the school board approval of the base bid, which will be the old science wing.
Did we not approve that already?
And we didn't have the pricing.
Oh, okay.
You approved Manual Arts. This is Gilbert, the Gilbert one.
Okay.
Okay, so for the Gilbert campus, right now the existing elementary and junior high schools are on hold. That was an alternate, so we do have pricing on that. It is just on hold as of now. So the old science wing, we would begin that abatement of hazardous materials in August. We're kind of starting it right after we get done with abatement in Virginia Roosevelt. Then the demolition work would happen September, October. So we're going to miss that winter conditions as well.
So part of the reasoning on that is gives you a little more time to move out of the Gilbert campus. As well, you've got the same people moving equipment out of Roosevelt, and that's the one that has to happen right away. It gives it a little break before you have to go over to Gilbert and get that done. So,
budget update. So contingency, as of now, we've spent 5.8%. The original contingency balance was $150,000. $50,000 of that was moved to North Star. So we had the $100,000 current contingency balance. $5,798 was spent on the Manual Arts Building. There was some additional abatement that needed to be done. So we have a remainder of $94,202. Project budget status. Pete has kind of touched on this already. All of these projects are accounted for within this $3,770,000. The other $3,729,000 was moved over to the North Star Elementary to help with their budget. Does anyone have any questions on this specific slide? I think we've kind of beat this one.
On this, Morgan, we see some of these printouts where we talk about, you know, the one where the old junior high in Evelyn is to sell. Evelyn Gilbert, there's properties to sell. How come we're not seeing the properties, extra properties from Virginia on any of this stuff that Virginia's got scattered out through the community, that we're not trying to sell those as well to help with the project?
It's a good question.
I mean, I've brought this up many, many times already, that we should be seeing those and we should be listing them for sale. I mean, according to the
Yeah, we have several properties within Virginia that we should have up for sale. That will.
I mean, every drop in the bucket helps this project, and hanging on to properties that the school district no longer has use for.
Or need.
It makes no sense to hang on to them.
Do we have an inventory of those?
I don't know if we have. I'm sure we have an inventory with just.
Yeah, it'd be good to see. I mean, I don't know there was other property out there.
Are you talking buildings or vacant lots?
Vacant lots.
Okay.
I got that one. The Buildings and Grounds Committee did talk about this topic, and we have had some informal conversations with the city of Virginia. So this topic will come back to the Buildings and Grounds Committee first, and then it'll eventually come back to the full school board. So yes, Bill, We haven't forgotten about that, but this will eventually come back. The lots are, there's not that much money tied up in these lots, but there are some lots that we aren't going to need. Part of them are parking lots. The Mill 40 is another one. There are some parcels scattered throughout Virginia. Not very many of them, but there are some.
So
that we need to take a look at, absolutely.
So you're talking to the city of Virginia, and we're going to be consistent with all of our properties that they'll be listed at fair market value, correct?
Yes, unless the city approaches you for a swap.
But we have nothing, the city, we have nothing.
Well, the
we
city
need
may
from
have
the city.
a different viewpoint on that. I don't want to speak for the city, but that could happen, that they're approached. But yes, fair market value, like everything else.
A swap. We don't need more land.
No, it's not.
Something else.
Yeah.
It's not, and I don't want to talk any more about that because I don't want to speak for the city of Virginia right now. But there's a bunch of different ways that they could approach you on this.
And I know.
And I would hope that they would do it in a timely fashion, okay, as in like, let's not wait 6 months, a year.
Oh, they're
Stuff done.
talking.
They're talking. The one property, the Mill 40, there's issues on who owns what. Is it a city? Is it part of a road? And so that has been discussed already, so just so that we know exactly what is ours.
Okay.
One of the issues on the timing too is we're using several of those parcels to do material storage, back to take the materials today so the price doesn't go up. So that needs to be timed out too. The sale can happen, just the occupation. We need to get those materials off that and into the building before you.
It'd be nice if the board could be, have some little information on just what the Virginia, what they own, what the Old Virginia district owns, so we can prepare ourselves for what we're going to be selling or swapping for whatever.
For whatever the swap is, right? Okay.
Awesome. So just a cost breakdown, so you know all those we talked about in this previous slide that are accounted for are the projects. Here's a cost breakdown. The Eveleth Junior High School costed approximately, we'll say, about $400,000. Manual Arts Building, $222,000. Roosevelt, $1.1 million. Gilbert, this is just the base bid. Old Science Wing, $475,000. Malone and Annex, $755,000. Total hard costs come out to about $3.3 million, plus soft costs $450,000, with a total of $3.7. Here's a breakdown, just more of those numbers, just so you guys can see where those numbers come from.
You see this format in each of the presentations. This is all a part of one big spreadsheet. It's all interlinked, and we do go over that once a month with Spencer at the business. So that's why you're seeing these little snapshots taken out. It's just so big that if you put it up there all together, you wouldn't be able to. You can barely read it now.
Are there any questions or comments on any of that information? All right.
Mike's moving. Loading the last one. All coming forward.
I think the demolition bid.
Yeah, I have one more.
Unplug.
Not sure why it fixes it, but it does.
You got it down, Pat.
Yeah, the USB extender gave out.
You have to do it again.
I spoke too soon on it, yeah.
Got to pause a little.
There we go. Dramatic pause.
Adapt and overcome, Mike. Thank you.
All right, this is the same one.
Oh, it is? Sorry.
Okay.
There's so many of them, it's hard to keep it straight.
And it went out again.
Can't say we don't provide documentation. Sometimes.
It'll have the same
Sometimes we
background,
read
it'll just
twice.
be the very definition abatement approval. Be the
I
title.
thought that was 6, because the last one you had was 5.
Should be 6.
And then Those 6 that add up there.
Should be 6.
Try to. What did I do fast?
There you go.
There we are.
Hit escape once to get rid of that thing in the corner.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
1 sec. Not sure why that came up.
Morgan, what is the content of the next presentation? You just want to give an introduction? What's it
Yeah,
gonna be
I
about?
talked about it a little bit in my last presentation, but this will be the Gilbert campus abatement and demolition approval. This will be just for the base bid, which was the old science wing. We'll go over the bidding process, kind of the process we do every time we're going through these approvals, the bidding review, and then the overall campus, or existing campus demolition approval. Any questions? We are now in the bid award stage. We've been in this bidding process for a couple months, making sure the contractors know what they're going through. We've taken a couple walks through the building with the contractors, and then went through the public bidding process.
A lot of good interest in the demolition, both the hazardous materials and the demolition, so we got good participation.
First up is our work scope 2A, which is the demolition package. The lowest bidder was Rachel Contracting. Their base bid price was $353,000. Second was Vite. Third, Carl Bolander and Sons, and then Blue Earth Environmental came in as the highest, but here are all their numbers. If you'd like to reference them, we also do have alternate pricing, just in case in the future we did want to take down the rest of the school as well.
And is that good for how long?
90 days.
So that'd be after you'd find out about your state funding.
And typically it's 60 days, but we extended this one to 90 days just for this reasoning. Next up is work scope 2B, abatement package. BCI Environmental was the low bidder on this. They came in at $107,000. For the abatement package, there were 2 alternates. The bus garage was an alternate, as you saw, it was not on the demolition. That is because this is just for the abatement of hazardous materials inside of it, if you guys would like to abate the bus garage.
So we're talking the alternate is, it's 107,000 just for the science wing, correct?
Yep.
And then what bus garage are you talking about?
Across the street, there's a bus garage.
Gilbert.
Oh, we're hanging on to that.
And this
They're just doing abatement.
You have asbestos on the piping in there.
Okay.
So we wanted to get that pricing because we had them on site already.
Okay.
So that you can have a budget for
I
that.
thought it was like a demo involved in the bus garage. Oh.
No, this is just if you would choose to abate the hazardous materials that are present.
I have a kind of a question as far as this goes. I mean, if we're going to keep it, doesn't it behoove us to abate it? And if you look at the base bid plus alternate 2, if we're going to keep it, we might as well get it done. But if you add up those 2, the low bid would clearly be Marvel by quite a bit then. I mean, it's the alternate 2 is so much lower than the other ones. I mean, that's 122,000 where the other one's 132,000.
The only thing that I would caution you on is once we abate those pipes, then you have to re-insulate them with regular insulation. We have not gone for pricing on that.
This was just, we had them on site, we wanted to get pricing, so if that was something that you guys did want to pursue, you kind of knew what you were getting into as far as how much it would cost you.
Recommendation is just to do the base bid.
Yes, that is at the end of the presentation tonight, all we're asking approval for is the base bid science wing.
I mean, if you look at all the bids, I mean.
What Matt is bringing up though, is if you combine.
Good point, Matt.
These 2, then that low bid would be
Mabel. Yep.
And that is a good point, and that is something that you can choose to do if you'd like. Just keep in mind, you will have to re-insulate those pipes that you abate the pipe.
Yeah, but if you had Mavo Systems do the bus garage for what, 6,200, I mean, you'd have plenty of money to re-insulate the pipes versus VCI Environmental at 25,000.
And that is 100% your guys' choice. We're just showing you the base bid, low bidder is what we have in red. So if that's something you want to pursue, that's totally up to you guys.
Are you able to speak to why there's such a big difference between the alternate two with Mavo and the alternate two with VCI?
I cannot speak to that personally. Do you have any intel on that, Patrick?
No, I think we'd have to go back to Mabel and just talk through. I know you bid tabbed the base bid and you bid tabbed the alternate one with these contractors. I don't think you had a lot of time to go through the bus, but we can definitely do that.
It just seems like it's a big.
We're trying to save nickels here.
Yeah, and that's information that I definitely can ask these bidders as well.
It's fine for me. I would just, if you knew off the top of your head.
Yeah. 32D, the fence package, once again, Keller Fence Company North. Their bid came in at $14,500 with the alternate pricing of $33,500. So all the bids combined for the old sign swing would be $475,000.
And that fencing is to just totally encircle the demolition area, obviously. That's a major hazard if we do.
Milestone schedule, we had pre-bid meetings and walkthroughs on the 16th and 23rd of March. And then Gilbert demo and abatement bid opening we had on the 7th of April. And now we are here today for school board approval. Following that, the abatement of hazardous materials, we kind of talked about 1st of August through the 2nd of September. Base bid, old science demolition work, the 6th of September through the 28th of October. And then if we were to pursue the rest of the building, that would take place next year, except for the abatement of hazardous materials, we would take care of this fall. Do you have any other questions?
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Go ahead. Does it make sense to do this now? Just the science wing? Does it make sense to make it, as I'm trying to make it more marketable? Or would it be better to wait and say, well, we're probably not gonna sell anyways, just take the whole thing down at once? And I mean, we're looking for money, there's $475,000 there. Does it make sense to do it now versus wait?
I would say do it now. Start doing some now. While you got the money. I mean, while we have some money, you know.
There is a pretty clear break where we drew that line between the base bid and the alternate, so it's not like it's a real messy line between those two buildings, just for your information.
I mean, I don't want like that $475,000 to get absorbed into something else.
What happens if we spend $475,000, then, well, 2 years down the road, well, we're gonna tear the rest of it down and it's, you know, a lot more than it is, you know.
Oh, we're going to deal with that when we tear down the Virginia campus and we tear down the Franklin and all the other buildings.
So we're gaining.
John, we're
looking for money on other parts of the project. I'm not sure if we're gaining $500,000 worth of value.
Just to take that one.
Right.
So the Gilbert, is it value added?
It's a risk you got to take.
Is it value added? Is it going to help us sell?
I would think it would probably
possibly
be more palatable. I mean, I'm just my opinion. I wouldn't want to buy that building with roofs leaking and old pools. I mean, if someone is going to look at it, they would probably want to look at it without that on it.
Not that building, but if someone bought the others and said, you take care of this, and I'll take it off your hands.
I get that's what we're going for. Does it make it that much more marketable? I mean,
I don't know.
You know, 100 million chance of selling it anyways?
Yeah.
I don't know. If we're looking for money in other areas of the project we saw that we're short, different areas, different parts of the construction budget.
And then we might as well just not tear down the Manual Arts building either. You know, go there.
No.
You know, we're tearing down the Roosevelt, we're tearing down, I mean, I guess we're tearing a little bit, some down in every town. Okay? I mean, I'll look at it that way. We're tearing down the junior high, the Manual Arts, the Roosevelt comes down, and part of that science wing comes down to make it more, possibly, a little more sellable. Because you know the tech building in Virginia is not going to sell. The Roosevelt be completely demolished. We don't know what we're going to do with the Franklin, if someone's interested in that, or the, you know what I'm saying? I mean.
I'm with you.
we've been told Manual Arts Building is obsolete in the tech building or the whatever, the one in Evelyn that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So can I ask for a vote to approve?
I would move to approve that bid to tear down the science wing in Gilbert.
I have a clarification on that, Bill. So are you making your motion to also abate the bus garage?
Or is it just for the base bid?
Or is this just for the base bid?
I guess since you're there, I would approve that as well.
So you're looking at, what was that second bidder with the lowest at 6,200?
I mean, can we separate those, Morgan? Can we have just that Mayo Systems come up and just do the garage for 62?
I think so, because we've already got the bids.
Trying to sell the garage? Is that what?
No, I don't think you.
Just gotta tear it down.
No.
It has to be part.
We're still.
Yes.
I would probably not abate it at that cost. I would probably just approve the demolition of the science wing only and abate the science wing only.
Okay, science.
Okay, because for, $25,000 extra dollars to do a bus garage, and there's such a discrepancy as Stacy and Matt have mentioned that there's, 25,000 versus 6,200. I mean, that's a big difference over a job that's going to be done. I would hope it's done exactly the same.
So just to be clear, it wouldn't be the 25,000.
It would.
It would be $6,200 more. Just
Yeah.
make sure that we got.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
So can you clarify your motion, Bill?
Yes.
There's two, okay, hang on. I'll go back to this.
Accept the bids as recommended by our contractor, correct?
That is correct.
I think it's that simple.
Yep, that is correct.
So we have a motion by Bill. Is it seconded?
Support.
Support by Director.
I need clarification.
Here to,
Are we going for the base bid? Is that what we're,
The base bid.
the base bid and not the alternate?
Not the alternate.
Including the,
Yeah.
and so you
No,
recommend
You put that slide back up.
with the base bid.
I think it'd be
I think it would be a great.
Yes, Rachel.
better to have something up on the wall.
Yeah, that's why I asked the clarification.
Yeah.
So we will not, this motion and second is not including the bus garage.
It'd be work scoped 02-A.
The reason why I'm asking is because, like he said, we would also have to insulate the pipes, is what he's saying. So we wouldn't know the cost of that right now. I think we just,
Need more.
yeah, I think going with the base bid is probably the best option right now with the information that we have.
So Bill's made a motion. Do we need a second?
No, Tom seconded. Thank you, though.
I don't think Bill was clear on his motion.
Yes,
Just for the base bid, is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay.
for 107,460 for there.
So is this motion for all of the base bids for all three work scopes?
Yes. Yes, that's.
Yes.
I guess we can do that, totaling that.
And that's it, right?
And talk about the fence.
75836.
Yeah, but you have to,
Got it.
Go one
Okay.
at a time.
Understand.
Fence package, this was,
So the-
after the abatement.
so that includes all three.
Go to the summary slide. There you go. Thank you.
475,836. So if everybody's clear on that, is there any more discussion or
Clear now.
questions?
I'm clear.
Clarification? Everybody good? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're doing, yeah, okay, all right. That would have been nicer to see that.
You better know what we're doing. You made the motion.
I know. Here we go.
Killing me.
I know. It's been a long meeting already.
It's been a long day.
Got to keep it moving, keep it moving. All right, Paul.
Okay, this is a component of the K portion presentations. You've seen a similar presentation to this many times in the past before. This is the quarterly adjustments to the construction manager's agreement. We've read through this before too. There's been a significant number of adjustments in the last quarter in particular. with additional funding from fundraising, from some ESSER funds, from some real estate sale funds that were all committed into the projects. There was a financial closeout of one job, there was a big reallocations of funds, and then a more significant budget alignment that's going on the North Star project. So there's lots of things moving around on the budget right now. And so this is a chance to pause that entire process, memorialize where we are today, and then have a point to go forward from that time. So in the overall strategy from day number one, this was the total, 178.5 million. Right now, in this current iteration of the budget, we're up to 191.5 million. Okay, so the total amount of this adjustment is 587,000. Like Pete had gone through on the North Star project, a significant portion of this overall value, in fact, over 90% of that total value, comes from two items that are just one-to-one, basically reimbursable expenses, the general conditions items, things used on the site in particular. So the majority of this comes from the North Star column. There was also a minor transfer, actually a reduction or a reduction to the GC's budget on the high school project that was transferred into some reimbursables. We've gone through, and in this last period, there was some, as an example, there was some invoices that we had paid on your behalf for the TeamWorks consultant. They were one of the consolidation folks. So as we went through and did the 66% check-in on the high school's trajectory, we noticed that there was some money that was needed to be just swapped around one-to-one on the high school budget. So that's the totals there. And I believe Pete was going to provide some more information too on this item as a takeaway as well. The site services is not adjusting at all. That's time for the 4 people that you see standing in front of you. So that's no delta change there. Again, the important thing about the general conditions budget as well as the reimbursables budget is that at the end of the project, 100% of what's not spent goes back to the district. So these are set aside costs for that. And then this is the computation on just the 2% contractual amount on the current hard costs. Again, if the total hard costs across the totals of all the projects goes down, this number goes down as well. Those are the 4 individual components that total up to this number of where we are at today. And if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask them. Otherwise, feel free to also have your discussion, and if it's appropriate, to ask for approval or a vote.
The vast majority of this, as we saw, is tied up in the general conditions, and until, for the general conditions to more than double since, in the last 3 months, to be generous, I'm just not comfortable on voting this until I see more information.
Well, before we go on, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion to approve
Yes.
by Director Stacy. Is there a second? Is there a second? Chair will second. For discussion. Is there any questions? Is there any?
I'd like to see some more information on this, so why everything has gone up, a little bit more breakdown of why this is.
I agree. And you guys aren't able to speak to that tonight, maybe in the detail that we're wanting.
I don't think in the detail that you want. We have all the numbers, but
Right.
we didn't put it into a slide format so we could present.
And there's, by not voting on it tonight, it will not go up between now and the next time you make the presentation?
Well, it'll either be in the next quarter, reflected in the next quarters, or in 2 weeks. I mean, if it goes up another 100% in the next 2 weeks, we'll see that.
That's why I'm asking the question. If we don't approve this tonight, is there a possibility it will go up?
No.
Okay, very good.
Is there any negative impact for us for waiting?
It's just tied to several of the other items that are in there, but I wait till the next board meeting, is that what you're?
Yeah, can you bring us back some information at the next board meeting? So we can get some clarification and some information and possibly take some action that night?
So, yes, we can do that, and no, I don't think it'll take a big negative impact.
Before the next board meeting, please.
Yeah.
You just, I can't get enough of us. We'll come back and we'll talk some more.
Okay. Do you want to poll your motion? I will poll my second if you will poll the motion with the contingency that they.
I would be comfortable voting on it tonight, so.
Okay.
I know I'm gonna lose, but
Very good. So we have a motion to approve it by Stacy. Your board chair caused this. I made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. Oppose?
No.
I think the noes have it. So if you can come back to us with our, I believe it's May 9th,
That's correct.
May 9th meeting with a little bit more information.
We're all gonna get binders, aren't we?
Yeah.
You asked for it.
Yeah, I love detail.
Not a problem.
Okay, excellent. That concludes all of our portions of the quarterly reports and all the action item for voting. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And that's all from us tonight. Patrick? All right.
Thank you.
You can send Paul next time because
Thank you.
can't wipe the smile off his face.
I know. He's our morale
All the
officer.
time.
You're up, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, we don't live here anymore. We live over there.
Yeah, well, we know.
Can you tell?
Yeah. You took all the good chairs.
Wait a minute. I'm gonna go get you a chair right now.
Yeah.
I'll take one too.
Yeah.
That's those general conditions, you know, we couldn't buy new chairs. Never mind.
Stacy, just for clarification, the ayes were Director Stacy and Director Reardon, and the other 6 were noes. Okay. We are now finally on to reports. Willie, can we put somebody before you?
We're always happy to hear from him.
I'm way too excited. Of course, if there was a kid, yes. That kid did a great job
I
tonight.
agree.
Very well done. Super neat to see. Thanks for this opportunity. I know it's a busy night, but I have about 35 or 40 minutes, so hang in there. Just kidding. I want to recognize some great donations along the way. Right for 100, Yulin Brothers for 500 to our construction trailer, along with Lakehead for 1,000 for our construction trailer, and Pohaki Lumber for 1,000 for the construction trailer. What a great project that has become. We were out there, I saw them today and yesterday. They were out there in the weather. The trailer is there. If you get a chance, take a ride by. Everybody can walk in. It's Wi-Fi. It's a great piece of mobile learning for the kids forever because it's ours.
Where is that?
Right by the ball fields. Go down on, what is it, White Cedar? Is that what that's called?
Okay.
Go down there anytime that fence is open, just keep going, and then all of a sudden look to the right on the softball field. You'll see the really nice trailer.
Fantastic.
And I believe they are there periods 1 and 2 and 5 and 6.
Okay.
The trailer seems to stay, so if you ever want to drive around when you're in town, you can do that. Assuming those are open, but if you drive fast enough, you can get right. No, just laughing. So thank you there. Thanks to Virginia graduate Steve Gentilini for donating $1,000 towards the dedication of the Mr. Vukwanich Senior Music Lab. We're very close to achieving that. We need a little bit more there. Looking forward to some more people that I've been talking to. The big one on the docket tonight is Minnesota Power. Thank you very much, Minnesota Power, for your total of $70,000 donation towards the stage naming rights in the Performing Arts Center. It won't be out loud. They've been very upfront about that, but we'd like to name the stage, and we're working with them and the architects on how to kindly do that and softly do that per their request. So thank you, Minnesota Power, for picking up the second half with their $35,000, which completes their $70,000 commitment. Paul and Jennifer Harrington, in honor of Paul's mom. We've talked about Mrs. Harrington before, which now their $2,000 donation completes the $10,000 needed for dedicating a classroom in Mrs. Harrington's honor, a longtime great teacher at VHS. Thank you, Paul and Jennifer Harrington, and the Harrington family. A Burger Bash update. We recently had a Burger Bash in conjunction with the Rock Ridge Track and Field team. Murray, thanks for all of that time to come and talk to the kids and get the tickets sold. Murray's a coach in the audience tonight and a great coach for us on the track team. And we kicked out a ton of tickets, over nearly 1,000 tickets out, and we were able to sell over 700 of them. And the kids did a great job. And then the event, it was one of the first nice days of the spring on that Saturday, and it was packed upstairs of the Elks. I thought I was back at the 4th of July in '92. There were so many people. Just kidding. It wasn't anything like that. But it seemed to be that packed upstairs of the Elks supporting this great project, which was our anonymous donor from Gilbert, who challenged us to raise $10,000 in monies, and this donor would double that and give us 20,000 more, and we were able to do that by raising over 7,000 that day. We had raised 3,000 earlier, and now we did succeed and raise that money of $10,000, and then a check from the anonymous donor has already come. So we're very lucky. We thank that anonymous donor forever. All of that will go in honor of Steve Kersey and towards upgrading and everything, because there's so much cost, everything we need at the track and field program, in equipment and or the stadium. So thank you everybody in the public who supported that Burger Bash. That was a ton of fun, and it was crazy. We apologize for the wait, and next time the Elks said no fries on site, we're gonna do chips, and we'll be able to keep that going and kick it out a lot faster. But there were a bunch of kids there working their shifts. Some coaches came in there and started helping. I was back there. I thought I was on TV. Well, wait a minute, I always think I'm on TV. So we had a lot of fun. Thank you everybody for your support of that. We also have the Virginia Co-op Credit Union. Very nice of them to give me a call and say we'd like to donate $1,000 from the Virginia Co-op Credit Union to Parkview Elementary. We're right across the street from them. We see the great things that are happening, and they donated $1,000 to the Parkview Elementary School teachers. The check has already been given to Sheena, and they've also given a $250 donation to the Rock Ridge Robotics Program. So thank you to the Virginia Co-op Credit Union, good friend of mine, Steve Badoniak. So much appreciated, the Virginia Co-op Credit Union. Now changing gears, put on the other hat, a quick update of the other part of my job, the Director of School to Work Engagement. That has gone really well. I actually have a whole bunch that I want to share with you tonight, but I'll try to keep it short. We have 40 plus students that are getting out into the workforce as we speak, getting an on-site job shadow experience through Jill Clennon's college level public speaking course at Evelyn High. We had 11 or 12 semester 1 and now 29 that we're trying to get out right now, and we're about 27, and I'm still working right now. I have until May 14th to get this done, and trying to do that while collecting this money is do all that process. But the people in the community have been great. The kids have been having some great experiences out there, which is kickstarting our academy program to get our kids out there to find out if this is really what they want to do. Even though it looks cool on TV, I actually want to go there and see if it's what I want to do. And we've had some great feedback from the kids about their experiences. So that's gone very well. It's been good to work with Jill. And also every Wednesday, we're still doing I'm coordinating a professional presenter every Wednesday. Morgan talked about that tonight. We're getting some of the speakers from there, also reaching out into the community, people that want to come and talk to our Academy Exploration classes and introduce their profession so our kids can start wondering and being, inquisitive and curious about what they might want to do as we head into the Academy model. Some of the things that the kids from Clennon's class have talked about that I've been getting them job shadowing experience: civil engineer, mechanical engineer, structural architect, nursing, conservation officer, occupational therapist, sign language interpreter, psychology and ultrasound technician, nursing, pediatric or school nurse, early elementary ed, radiology technician, athletic trainer, dental hygienist, physical therapist, again, some more engineering, electrician, sports medicine, lab tech, cosmetology. Those are some of the things that the kids have expressed their interest in to start their research in Glennon's class about this is what I think I want to go in. And we've had people in the community welcome these kids. So thank you, everybody in the community, for working with us. And if you're watching this tonight and you have heard that profession and you want to take a kid, get a hold of me, please. Great relationship just now started with a good friend of mine, Jeff Terrell, and his nursing program at Mesabi Range. We're getting our kids there to visit that program to see if this is something they want to do, to check out the college side of it, just make sure they understand that. Plus, we're getting them on site. And we just got a new relationship with SEH Engineering. As you heard, we had some kids there. I thank Matt Reed for that. And Waterview Pines. I thank Kathy Krepp for helping us at Waterview Pines to get our kids in for physical therapy, occupational therapy, and hopefully nursing. So a lot of the people in the communities are stepping up, which is exactly what we wanted. That's it. I thank them.
Excellent. Thank you, Willie.
Thank you.
You always bring wind back to my sails. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have to approve any of these donations?
Already did.
They were in the consent.
Okay, very good. 6.2, budget update. Spencer.
Hello. This presentation I gave on Friday morning, I think it was, with the Finance Committee. So I'll try not to go as long as we did that morning, but a lot of it you've seen before. Some of it will be new. And if you have any questions, please let me know. First thing, I showed you this several months ago, probably back in January, just how we got to the 2.1 deficit that we needed to work with. As you remember, this current school year, we're using about $2 million of ESSER 2 funds to help balance our budget. So going into 2023, we won't have that, so we have to figure out how to plug that hole. Our estimated contract increases for our current staffing levels are about $500,000. That's all contracts district-wide. A decrease of about 50 students is about $250,000 on current funding levels. I'll talk a little bit more later about some things legislatively that hopefully will help that number. A couple items that were in the budget for 22 that won't be for 23. We had a teacher grievance estimate in there of $150,000 that's no longer there, that we don't have to worry about. And savings from closing the Gilbert and Roosevelt schools of $500,000. In a little bit, Jeff has some more information on that that he will share. So that's how we got to that $2.1 million. Again, it's about 5.7% of our total budget that we're looking at. Some revenue options to help fill that gap is ESSER 3 funds. There's two separate pieces of ESSER 3. There's about a $3.5 million and then about a $900,000. The $900,000 has to be used really on after-school programming or summer programming. That can't really be used for school day. So that's different there. And then for this current school year, we did receive we will receive some pandemic enrollment loss of about $85,000 that will help this current school year's budget. The next couple of pages actually is an error in there. So I do have an updated one for you. It won't affect anything else on it. I accidentally put the one in that I was looking at 324, so I moved the students forward 2 years instead of 1. I was just testing some stuff to see if it was. So I'll hand this out to you after this, but it won't affect the rest of the pages in my presentation. We're still looking at a decrease of 50 students. So this is just a quick look at the revenue and where we got that $250,000 decrease in our revenue. You can see all the different areas that our basic aid is tied to. This does include a 2% increase that is in the state law right now for next year. So we, minus 50 students, even with a 2% increase in revenue, we're looking at a $250,000 decrease in total revenue. So that kind of gets us to where we were a few weeks ago when I presented the different scenarios to choose from. And the scenario that was decided on was to reduce the budget by 1.1 million and use $1 million of the ESSER in the 23 school year to help bridge that funding gap. And then the last board meeting, I believe it was, where some reductions were made. Here is the total, what we got to there. We had 4 teacher retirements, 6 regular ed classroom reductions, teaching staff. We had 3 special ed reductions. You can see there's 3 reductions that we made that had 0 effect on the budget. One is the position will be coming back in that, and 2 were Title I. We are receiving, at this current time, we're hearing we're going to receive less in Title I funding. It won't affect the general fund, it won't affect our title, so we had to reduce there. And then in other employees, a couple of retirements, resignation, and a few other reductions that will have to be made. So all that said, we're at that $1.1 million that we discussed last time. So we've hit that mark that you asked us to. There was some talk of having some other teachers rehired in some different areas. So this scenario too is showing how that could happen based on some things that were on the agenda last meeting as well. So you can see everything else is the same until down on the bottom is the scenario 2 with hiring some teachers back and reducing in a couple of other areas. So that would be 1.18 million. So we're still at that 1.1 if you want to do that. There's no action being asked to be done today. This is just informational.
1.6 is that, Jeff?
The next page is to go over where we are with ESSER 3 grant funding and kind of what the plan is. All of our ESSER 3 funds need to be spent by September 30th of 2024. So just a couple months into the 24-25 school year. We kind of have 2 years to use them here with a little bit into that following. So we have a total of about just under 4.5 million. Again, remember that 900,000 we need to use on kind of after school and summer programming. So this 2022-23, we're looking at $1 million to fill that gap that we have in funding. The teacher contract that's tentative right now, there's about 332,000 that would go towards that. There's a couple of new hires that were written into the grant, some of the things that the state wanted you to earmark ESSER funds for. So these are some possibilities that would come forward to the board at a later date if it's something that you want to do. It's social worker, counselor. There's some summer school options, before and after school tutors, field trips for the summer. Those 3 would all be part of that 900,000 after school programming. We also discussed some school buses. We can use some ESSER funding to get school buses, and I think that's coming up later on the agenda as well. Be able to help with our fleet and purchase school buses out of ESSER. This could help the general fund by not having to pay for, we typically have 1 or 2 buses out of there. This could help free up some dollars there as well. So that would leave us with about 2.4 million going into the 23-24 school year. So I just rolled over and said, well, we may have to fill that funding gap again of $1 million. Would we have enough to do it? And in this case, yes, we would. We would still want to have those same programming if you opted to do that. So I wanted to see how we would do there. That'd be about 1.3 million in 23-24. That would leave us with just over $1 million to decide how else we should use that to help the students going forward. Just remember, we need to spend that by 9/30 of 2024. So those are some good options to help our budget.
The reduction in title, has a lot to do with like the free and reduced lunch forms that come. And that I would assume was negatively impacted by the fact that there was free lunches and things that were provided over COVID, correct?
That's a great question, and this really started to hit us last year, and it wasn't just here, it was statewide. Many free and reduced lunch applications were not completed because everybody automatically received free lunch. So it negatively affected everybody. I actually think there's a bill in the legislature that was to help school districts with that and how they were affected by having less applications than less money.
Mhm.
I don't know where that is with everything else, but that's a great point of why we have it. And again, if we were to get more in there, then we could hire the positions back within that Title I program.
Very important to turn those in.
Yes. And then we wanted to look at just a few other budget items and give you more information on them. And again, if you have any specific questions on these or others, you can always get a hold of me and I'll do my best to help explain what they are. And again, a lot of these, a budget's as good as a point in time. And like, for instance, legal fees, we hope we don't have to spend the $50,000. So if it's less than that, it's going to help maybe in something like fuel this year with gas prices going up to help offset that increase. We're hoping to have a decrease. So just as we look at those, keep that in mind. Our classroom supply budget is just over $235,000. This gets split out amongst all of our different schools based on how many students are in those schools. So right now I'm working with the tech department to get me numbers of how many they think are going to be now in our new schools next year as students move around so we can get that split out. Legal fees, we've typically done about $50,000. I think last year was the first year that we actually went over that. Not this current school year, but last year. This one, we're still tracking under that number, and hopefully we stay there forward. Printing and publishing, this budget was higher this year than it had been previous, and that's because there's a lot of information we've been sending out to the public. So this is an area that hopefully we're going to be under in the future also, that will help the budget.
Are we tracking for that 100,000 this year?
We're tracking a little bit over that 100,000. Yes. Thanks. iPad lease payment, this would be our third of 3 payments of $250,000. Bill Bryson and I are currently researching a grant and Mike to help pay for this. That would be another great thing to help our general fund budget. If we could get a grant to pay for this one, we could free that up. So we're working on that. This is where I'll turn it to Jeff if you want to talk a little bit about the Gilbert facilities and where that came from.
Sure, I was asked to put together utility costs for Gilbert and Roosevelt, as well as an estimate for the Laurentian. Most of those are pretty self-explanatory. I guess the way you should really look at this is we have a net loss of 1 building next year, as obviously the Roosevelt is moving over to the Franklin, and the Laurentian is opening, so we will have 1 less building. So if you look at the Gilbert campus, that would probably be a pretty good indicator. The only couple things, the maintenance personnel, there is one over at Gilbert right now. Probably won't have a full-time one at Laurentian. Still working out what we're going to do about snow plowing in that area. So there will be some cost in that area for Laurentian as well, but it won't be full-time. And as far as the Laurentian goes, worked with ARI on making those estimates. They are seeing right now their new buildings that they're making. They're spending about 18 cents per square foot for gas and about 70 cents per square foot for electricity and about 10 cents for water and sewer. So that's how those numbers came up. Insurance, talked to Jamie with the insurance. He actually said the insurance on a new building liability is quite a bit less, as you can see. So that'll be a little bit of savings as well. We're hoping that I just put a $5,000 placeholder for repair and maintenance. We're really hoping that we don't have to spend that much on repairs on a new building. So, any questions on any of that?
So Jeff, these 3 maintenance people, the custodians, they're going to go over to the Laurentian, correct?
A net loss of one building, so in theory, we could lose three.
Where do these people go then? I mean,
Go to Laurentian,
right? So you're not really,
and you look at the Franklin and Roosevelt swap, so that's net zero.
yeah.
We're probably heavy by three for next year.
It's just a big, huge, I see on the insurance, it's a little bit more per square foot of the new building than it is on the old building. When you look at the insurance, I mean, the square footage versus the Gilbert campus versus the square footage of the Laurentian, we're paying more for insurance on that building. We're paying more for insurance on the new building. Per square foot.
Insurance doesn't look at it like per square foot, they look at it more as value. So they put a value of $40 million on that building as opposed to the $30 million they have on Gilbert right now.
Okay.
Any other question?
And then a few more things I just wanted to point out. Our total utilities are about 1.3 million right now. And of course, that will change depending on how inflation goes and costs on all of that. The next line item is our TOC, Teachers on Call. That's our substitutes. This is increasing. Over the last couple of years, we've seen it gone up. We've had quite a few substitutes the last 2 years, and it's something that we need to look at to make sure that we have everybody at work. We don't have to pay these costs, but it is a substantial cost. Weekend boiler checks, I think half of these might go away here shortly, so we should see some savings on those, not having to check boilers and different technologies on how to check those. Athletic supply budget, this is the total budget for supplies. Next year we'll have all of our sports combined, which should decrease this supply budget by about $7,500 or so with having everything now combined going into next year. We did have some coaches' pay savings. This was a question that came up. But within that, those savings were kind of worked into the 4.81 that was being negotiated with the teachers. So that kind of is all encompassing within that contract.
It is a savings from the activities budget, but not from the overall budget from what you'd presented.
Correct. Yep. School business coordinator, like Mr. Spelt said earlier, he's kind of taken on that role. So we had somebody in that position before.
So in essence, by not filling this, we've cut an administrative position through attrition as opposed to what was budgeted last.
Transportation, this one is kind of yet to be determined. We have after-school activities next year because of where everything's going to be held at the gyms. We're going to have to transport all kids over. We did a lot of that this year too. There just wasn't as many, so a lot of kids were able to get on the regular bus route that was coming this way anyway. Next year we may have to have some extra bus routes to make sure everybody gets to their after-school activities to be determined. Fuel, our budget's about $120,000. If gas prices continue to go up a little bit or even stay where they are now, I can see us having to add a little bit to that budget into next year, especially with having all the Spelt students going over to Franklin next year. That's going to add some transportation costs there. Don't know exactly how many routes that's going to be yet, but that's something we have to keep an eye on going forward. Big one is Brown Transportation. We're hearing maybe selling, maybe going out of business, so we have to figure out a way for our special ed transportation. We use them for a lot of our special ed transportation. So that's something I know Bob is working through, but it's another thing that we have in the back of our mind that we have to figure out between now and next school year. And then legislative changes, trying to stay positive. I know the House and the Senate are very far apart as far as their education bill is. Hopefully, even if they meet in the middle, that's going to help us and bring additional revenue. There's talk of some one-time funding to help with enrollment reductions based on COVID and things like that, which would really help us. and help all schools. And the big one is they're looking at funding special ed more than what they do now, and how that would help us is we have to use general fund to help pay for our special ed education. And the more special ed we can get, the more that'll free up general ed dollars to do other things. So keeping our fingers crossed on that. Again, we hope to know by June 1, but we know that doesn't always happen that way. So again, there's kind of the snapshot of where we are budget-wise right now, and hope to have more good news as I come back through.
Thank you, Spencer. Any questions for Spencer?
Thanks, Spencer.
Thanks, Spencer.
Six point four, Superintendent, 6.41, Highway 53 study.
Yes, thank you, members of the school board. Hang in there. We're getting in the home stretch here now for the school board. A couple quick updates for the board. Topic is Highway 53. There have been a whole slew of individuals, MnDOT, St. Louis County, and some other folks working as far as on Highway 53, talking about the area where the lights are by Slumberland, and I'm talking about the Borgen Road intersection, and I'm talking about the Hat Trick. It's called Hat Trick Avenue if you're going into Four Seasons. Those three intersections are being studied, and there is nothing definite. They are looking for money, but they have had a series of community meetings, and area business people have been there to these meetings. They've just finished one with an open house for the public. And I see some familiar faces in the crowd here who were there. And so I don't want to speak for MnDOT and St. Louis County, but just to update the board on what they're thinking. This is all tentative and this is all contingent upon funding. What they showed the public recently would be, and this is because of the school traffic. This is solely being caused by the new high school and the new Laurentian Elementary. It's also an opportunity to relook at intersections and how the traffic flows and maybe open up some areas for businesses or expansion in Evelyn on both sides of Highway 53. But we're the ones causing it, but it's a good thing to cause. First of all, at the intersection where the Slumberland is, where the lights, they are recommending a roundabout. And the roundabout they used as an example was the one when you're leaving Cloquet on the south end of Cloquet and going onto the interstate. They're recommending a roundabout which would be 2 lanes going in both directions. And that roundabout would also have an area for pedestrians and other vehicles to pass from the east to the west, west to the east. And traffic would slow down, but the reason why a roundabout is being recommended there, and this is not us making the recommendation. This is MnDOT and St. Louis County making the recommendation, along with the city of Evelyn is heavily involved. And VITA, because VITA owns part of that road. Not Highway 53, but the road going up to the new high school. And so the biggest thing they're considering is safety. And the roundabout is being proposed because of safety. We had an extraordinary number of individuals complete the survey. We had 660 plus individuals complete the survey, which in MnDOT's and St. Louis County's world is 6 times more than they normally get. So we had a lot of participation from the community. So they're looking at if they can pull the money off roundabout. At the Borgen Road intersection, their recommendation was it's not a roundabout. The biggest concern is if you're at Borgen Road and you want to go left and go south on Highway 53, that they would add an acceleration zone road. So right now there is no acceleration road. So if you're at Borgen Road turning left, you just look for the opening and gun it and go. They're looking at adding an acceleration zone, so there's less chance of a T-bone at that intersection. So they're looking at an acceleration zone right there. And they're also looking at, also from the other way, a de-acceleration zone to make that a safer interchange. Hattrick Avenue, they are looking at, not a roundabout, they're looking at making it safer. They call it J-turns. The one intersection they used as a guide was down by, before you get to Mankato on 169. If you've been on 169, there's this massive candy store, and it's yellow. And if anybody's gone down there and stopped there, it's supposed to be the largest candy store in Minnesota. But they redid that intersection, so it's impossible to do a T-bone. And so if you're turning right, it's easy. You just go turn right. But let's say, and this is what they would recommend for here. So let's say you're coming from Mesabi Range College and you actually want to go left and go south on Highway 53. So rather than being able to go left right away, you would not be able to do that. You would have to turn right and go north, and then you'd have 500 feet to go to the left lane, far left lane, and then they call it a J-turn. And then you simply hit the J-turn, and then you drive south. That is one of the biggest changes on that. And those types of intersections reduce fatalities and make it safer. So I just want to update the board that that's what was presented at the public community meeting. Any questions from the board?
That J-turn is the same as they have in Cotton, correct?
Yep. Why would they just make them go to the roundabout going north? It's a little bit further, go to the roundabout, then go south. It's not that much further.
Yeah.
I know, I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
What did you say, Joe?
They thought
North
about
of 53 to the roundabout instead of making a J-turn, and, to go back south. I've seen 3 fatalities at the intersection. I've worked a lot of years on Hattrick Avenue, so it's a bad intersection, I understand.
Right, and the concern also is everyone wants to make sure the businesses aren't restricted, that it's still relatively easy for people to get to businesses no matter which side of the road you're on. But that was a compromise at that intersection, because to make it completely safe, you put a roundabout in. However, at that particular intersection, there's the frontage roads on both sides, so they don't quite have enough space for a roundabout. They could put a roundabout in there, but it would be a single lane roundabout. And they determined that it just wasn't going to work to have a single lane roundabout, because it would back up traffic in both directions. But they thought about it.
Any other question?
Is there any, and slightly off topic, any talk about improving the industrial park coming in that shape? All this additional traffic.
Yes, that is a road that is of considerable debate. I think what will happen is there will be some type of swapping going on between the city of Evelyn and St. Louis County, and that will turn into a county road from Highway 53 roundabout up to White Cedar Drive. And they're looking at also redoing that intersection a little bit, but that would be a county road up to there. From there to where we are, where the buildings will be, that's Avita Road, or it's our road. And so there's some discussions about what would happen with that, but I believe everyone's priority is on, if you've driven on that road from Highway 53 to White Cedar Drive, it's worse. There's potholes all over the place. But I also want to say the city of Evelyn has been very good to talk to. They've been very cooperative. They understand the situation. And so I believe something will be worked out to fix that road, because we really want that road fixed before parents and kids start going up that road.
And they're also talking about basically extending White Cedar Drive all the way to Highway
37.
37, correct?
Yes, but that was not part of what they presented to the public, because that would require additional X millions of dollars of funds. If all of what I just described happened and they got funding for it, and they're, again, cautiously optimistic, somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million is what they're looking at spending over those 3 intersections. When would this happen? They're being very clear that this would not start because they need approvals, they've got to secure funding 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
Oh, well.
But that's at the state level. The road, Matt, you're talking to, that'd be either at the county or city level.
County, right. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? 6.42.
Very briefly, one more thing. I know you heard about the Laurentian Open House. This is going to be a big deal, and we want to make it a big deal. Stacy is all over this one. What will happen, it's an open house for the general public. It is Wednesday, next Wednesday, not this week, the week after that, Wednesday from 5 to 7 o'clock. The general public is invited. We will have a program at 5 o'clock. We will have cookies and probably something to drink, but don't expect a meal. But we will have some cookies for everyone. We'll have a program, and then we will have the building be open for the public. We'll give tours, so the public can either go with the tour and see the building, or they can just wander through the building. And this building, and I've heard this from multiple people, this is a showstopper building. You have built what will be one of the most heavily visited elementary schools in the upper Midwest coming up. And I will leave it up to those who go in the building. I encourage the public to go into the building, and then you decide what you think about that building. But the kids have been in the building, teachers have been in the building, and I am hearing almost nothing negative about the way the building is designed, the rooms, or anything like that. Kids love the building. They were very excited about it. So any questions or about the open house coming up? Last one, just to, with the board, it did come up earlier, but we still are planning on moving. We have a lot of, the buildings aren't moving, but the kids and the teachers within the buildings are moving. So that whole process is still going forward. Teachers are still working on it as far as how they're going to move. We still have the plan. Jeff's been key as far as helping that plan get together. So just want to keep this alive because this is a big deal. We have a lot of teachers and we have a lot of kids that are in motion here pretty soon. So we are working on it. I think it will go fairly smoothly. There'll be some glitches, but we'll work our way through it. Any questions about the upcoming?
About the room assignments, everybody knows where they're going?
We do know, yes, we know who they are, and I will call the personnel committee, school board personnel committee so they can see it and talk about that. But principals are talking to the teachers so they know which rooms they're in, and so they know who's going to be around them as well. Yep.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. 7.1. Consider approval of purchasing 4 new school buses for the 22-23 school year.
So moved.
Evening, board members. Friday, I went to a budget committee meeting and I made a presentation to them on kind of what the current status is with the transportation department, both on the Evelyn campus and on the Virginia campus. I went in looking to purchase 4 buses for the next school year. The situation right now is that the buses in the Virginia area are pretty good. We don't have a lot of old school buses, but we did purchase back 4 or 5 years ago buses from International that had a certain engine in them that is a very poor engine. International has changed that since then. We still have 5 of those buses. The nice thing about that is under warranty, I got 3 of those engines replaced in the last 3 years. So those buses are in fairly good shape and condition. but there's still 2 that there's nothing I can do about. And although they're working fine right now, they are in need of replacement. That's on the Virginia side. That's why I said we're looking at maybe 2 on the Virginia side. On the Evelyn side, the story's a little bit different. Older buses. Buses that weren't taken quite as well care of because they don't have the facilities that we have in Virginia. They can't wash them daily. There's a lot of body rot on the buses. Some of the frames are starting to rot on the buses. We just went through a state inspection last week. All of the buses were re-stickered except for one that was in a shop, and that's going to get that should be fine. That'll be re-stickered tomorrow. I want to make it very clear to everybody, there are no safety issues with our buses here. That's not what I'm talking about. We just need to start replacing some of the buses. I've got two vendors, which is Talene Transport and Hoagland Bus. They came in, buses have gone up in price. So they're probably about $5,000 more than they were last year. And it's all related to what's going on. I did take a look at a third vendor. That vendor has not called me back. They were supposed to come up and look at our buses, and they have not yet. Talene has not seen our buses for trades yet. So what I gave you on the sheet was just outright purchase prices of new buses and what they're going for right now. So that's kind of the current situation.
Okay. Can I change my, I'd like to support buying 4 buses contingent on who gives a better trade so we get a better dollar amount. Whether it's Hoagland or Thomas, whatever.
And these are paid for, if I do believe, through SR dollars?
That would be our recommendation.
Yeah. I support Tom's motion.
So I have a motion.
In our last levy, we promised that we would keep our buses and our fleet well maintained and as well as small classroom sizes, so something I'm pushing for.
So, I mean, we're talking like, how many miles on these buses, Bob?
Some of, I think, well, Virginia has one with about 140,000 miles. That's probably the oldest that we have. In Evelyn, some of them have 160,000 on them.
And I mentioned when I got here, I talked to you about, you know, you're looking at a bus and you're looking at $2,000 for a trade-in value and scrap for the other buses. It's kind of a slap in the face when you look at.
I would think 2,000 is scrap.
Yeah, 2,000 is scrap.
I think that is scrap value.
I mean, we could scrap them out for that.
Well,
I mean, I'm just saying, as I mentioned, I've seen buses on Marketplace. I know we don't want to go there and sell buses, but they are safe, you say, because we're taking them up to the day that we get the new ones, so they are safe. I mean, I've seen buses up there with, you know, mileage of 250, 300,000 miles locally in Minnesota. Sell them for $4,500 to private parties and individuals at whatever they want to make out of them. Okay, I mean, would I be out of line to suggest that we try to like maybe sell these? I mean, because we're talking, Nick, we're talking, well, Bob, I mean, Tom, that's your opinion.
That's my opinion. Take a ride down to United Truck and look at the field of buses they have back.
I don't want to waste my time. Okay, I don't want to waste my time looking at a field of buses. I'm talking about saving dollars for the district. Okay, I mean, if we're going to give these things to them, we could just bring them to the scrap right out on Highway 37 and get the same amount.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I'm not trying to create any argument with anybody. I'm just thinking maybe we should try to sell them outright. You know, as is, where is.
Well, and I would think that part of that is maybe factoring in Bob's time and what it takes away from his other stuff. And is it just easier and cleaner to do it?
Just give them away?
Well, through the trade-in, I mean, some of these are, it's not like all these buses are out on the road, and as Bob explained in our finance meeting, there's a couple that are approved just for use when another bus is in repairs because the frames aren't in that great of shape.
Yeah, but they passed inspection, so.
Barely, I think is what you
Well,
had said on
One of them
Friday.
was- Yeah, one of them.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, you sell it as is. I'm just trying to save dollars, trying to make dollars for the district.
I know.
I mean, if we're gonna give them away for 50 or whatever scrap price was in 2000 for the other ones, I mean, that's what you thinking we're gonna get.
That's what I'm thinking.
I guess I also don't want to task Bob with putting this out on like Facebook Marketplace and dealing with phone calls and
Tire kickers
whether we're
and-
doing this correctly and wasting time with people coming in to look at it.
I assure you that I will get
I mean,
And I don't have,
values from the vendors.
and I don't have any doubt in that, Bob.
So just to clarify, the motion is to go to the two vendors listed, say, we want 4 buses, I assume, are they the same? Are we comparing apples to apples as far as the brand of bus?
If I take 2 for Virginia and 2 for Evelyn, I have to buy smaller ones for Evelyn simply because they can't fit in the facilities.
So you're looking at
Now,
2 each, is that?
Yes,
Vendor?
yes. Difference in price, $150.
I mean, that's always been a thorn in my side that they built a bus garage. That was too small, you know? I mean, so we were stuck buying these expensive.
At the time, it's just like the Virginia garage. At the time they built it, buses were smaller, they all fit.
Right.
They don't anymore.
And are we looking at, when we're down 300 students, we all know that, are we looking at combining some routes and maybe less buses or?
We're looking at combining routes. We have so much extracurricular stuff going on that, actually last week I ran out of buses and I had to cancel the activities bus in the evening, just because there's so many out. So you do have to have them on hand. You get breakdowns too.
And then the one thing that'll happen next year is the Roosevelt coming to the Franklin. So that'll be something that we never had to transport before.
How many buses we have actually on hand in case one breaks down?
We have 4 additional in Virginia and I believe 3 additional in Battlefield.
And we ran out of buses.
30, you said 31 total in our meeting on Monday?
31 total.
You would anticipate maintaining a fleet of 31 going forward?
I'd like to, at least until all of the schools are open. And then if we can shed something, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Do you know, Bob, off the top of your head, now, what are we going to be transporting for students compared to what we have? I mean, I'm assuming we transport 75% of the students now, but once we open this facility, and what's that number going to jump to?
We don't know yet.
Don't know yet? I just thought maybe you had something.
I'm getting close on the routes. The routes are all built for next year. The kindergartners aren't figured into it yet because we don't even know who they are. But, how that's going to look, I'm hoping to get away with it with the same amount that I'm using right now.
Yeah.
Plus, we're going to have to assume Linda Brown was doing one of our routes for Evelyn. We're going to have to now assume that, which I was hoping to do anyways, but she is no longer going to be here, so we have to do it now. So we don't have a choice.
Well, next year we only have to transport 100%, so that's good.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And, well, no, the problem with Tom with your motion is he just stated that he would be buying possibly 2 from one vendor and 2 from the other. And your motion says from the vendors that give the best trade-in value.
I'd be buying 2 for Virginia and 2 for the Evelyn area, not from 2 different vendors.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Are we going to wait for the third vendor?
What's that?
Are we going to wait for the third vendor?
I've contacted him. I spoke to him And he said he was coming up and he never came up.
I mean, there could be a savings there. Yeah, maybe
Well,
reach out to, well, I
I
don't know.
don't trust customer service if
Yeah.
they're not, right, you know.
And maybe they just don't.
One didn't show, Bob. United. He won't put bid in. He won't bid here anymore.
So there's our answer.
Okay.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm for buying buses. You know, I am.
Yeah, you sound like it.
Well, no, I'm, I got Tom there. He wants to,
We have a motion for,
wants to scrap a bus, but he wants to save a door. Get on to Roosevelt.
we have a motion by Tom, second by Stacy, to buy 4 new buses with SR money. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
7.2. Consider proposal from Addy Enterprises.
I'm affiliated by, it's my brother. I'm not affiliated with this at all, just so the board knows. I will abstain from the vote.
And I would like to have that pulled from the agenda. I don't think any one person should be able to go in and cherry pick what they want out of that school. If that's the case, we should open everything up to bids.
I'm pulling it from the agenda.
Yeah, it's kind of late for that.
Yeah, do that.
You could table it
Yeah.
or just vote it down.
Yeah.
I share your concern, Tom.
So are you asking for a motion?
Motion?
Doesn't sound like there is.
Motion to accept. Is there a motion to accept? Is there a motion to accept? With no motion, 7.2 fails for lack of a motion.
I mean, just we should have a plan.
Yeah.
We have to have a plan.
Yes, absolutely.
You can look at stuff and.
And I
Can
think
we send that to like the facilities committee to develop some kind of a plan for people to?
we had discussed this and we talked about, well, we didn't discuss it in a committee meeting, but we had just talked about, Tom has a great idea. Being that this failed, no, we don't have to discuss 7.2. I'll just have to discuss.
Well,
what
We're going to
happened.
discuss it anyway.
Hey, no, I would rather that we not go into anything more, and we will go to a committee and come back to the board.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay,
Like that.
very good.
Thank you.
Almost 9 o'clock.
7.3, consider approval of Weiner Gear Boss carts and shelving for Rock Ridge Athletic Storage Room.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Director Tamero, second by Director Addy. Is there any discussion?
Was this something that was already in the budget, budgeted for?
It was in the consolidation dollars, wasn't it? Or no, that was for uniforms, right? Or no?
Yes, very briefly, board members, this would come out of the FF&E budget. It is budgeted for, it's a new building, we are gonna need to have storage materials for uniforms, shoulder pads, all sorts of the other athletic gear, and so this is our recommendation. The two activity directors have spent a lot of time on this topic, taking a look at it. This is their recommendation and consequently our recommendation for your consideration for the storage of the athletic equipment in the new high school.
Follow-up question, how are we gonna access stuff that's 12 feet off the ground?
That's the cool part. It moves up and down on tracks. And so it's really easy for that to go. And so in the old days, you would just build some shelves and throw some stuff on there, but you really couldn't go really up high. So in the newer systems here, it's kind of a shuttle system, so you can move things down, and then once something bin is filled, you can move it up and back. So your total storage, you can have more storage because you're going up higher.
Okay.
It's not the fanciest system though, because we told them they couldn't have that. But yeah, that was
Rock
a really
Ridge
cool system.
Athletic
But
Storage Room.
Still, this will take care of our needs. It's kind of a midline system for athletic storage, I guess is the term I would use. It's a nice system.
This is going in the building, down by the ball fields.
Yep, no, The new high school.
Going to the new high school. Oh,
Where the locker rooms are, there's a storage, athletic storage room, and these would go into the storage room.
okay. Thank you. We have a motion by Tom, second by Bill. Is there any other discussion?
It's almost 9 o'clock.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, carried. Thank you. Item 7.4, consider approval of hire of Scott Manny for the Roosevelt Elementary Principal at a salary of $118,499 for a 46-week contract effective July 1st.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Director.
I'll support, but I want some discussion on this. Didn't we, Tom, we had negotiations. Was that I don't have that information in front of me, but was that?
Negotiated price.
Was the negotiated price at the last? Okay.
Yes. Is there any other discussion?
I just wanted to know, I'm on the personnel committee and we got invited the night before or whatever to attend those interviews and I wasn't able to because of other commitments. But I'm interested to know how many people were involved in those interviews.
Yep, absolutely. I could absolutely answer that question because I was there for both of the interviews.
I was just going to ask, does this apply to both this agenda item and the next one?
They're related, so I'll just answer for both, and you can handle them as you wish. For the Roosevelt Elementary principal position, we had, I think there were 6 people on the interview team. Tom was the school board rep on that interview team. For the high school principal position, that was a larger committee. We had probably about 12 people on that interview team, and that interview team had some Evelyn Clifford High School folks on it and some Virginia High School folks on that interview team. And Tom was your school board rep for that one. So that's as far as the numbers on the interview team.
Was that on 7.4 and 7.5 as well? Those were the same people on that?
No, we had
There's 6 for the.
Rockridge was bigger.
12 people from the high school, from each combined.
All right.
Yeah, the only people common to both interviews were myself and Tom.
Okay, any other question? Any other questions?
So, yep, sorry. So Roosevelt, for the Roosevelt interview, who, was there people just from Virginia in those interviews or?
For that particular one, yes, because that was coming from the Roosevelt school. So for that one, yes.
But we're one district.
Yeah, that's just.
We're one district.
My only thing too, if we're
it's
combining both.
I mean, I'd hate to say it, I wouldn't like to have seen it stacked that way.
Well, yes, and I'm not going to disagree with you here, but that's who was on the interview team.
Okay.
And Mr. Manny has been our interview this year.
Yeah.
Okay, any other question?
Just moving forward, we need to change the way these.
Well, we did.
I mean, we're
high school.
One district now. We can't be cherry picking. I mean, not cherry picking, but we can't be. We're one district, and we should be not. We should have fair representation from all buildings because we are fiercely united.
Yes, I agree with you, Director. And
'Cause I'm-
depending what we're doing, sometimes we get volunteers from multiple buildings, and sometimes we don't.
I just want to make sure it's thrown out there for everybody to participate in because there's times like, what we're in where somebody may interview for, or get moved around from different buildings. It's just, I think it would be beneficial for people from both previous sides to participate.
Yep, fair enough.
Thank you.
Very good. With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Silent, carried. Thank you. 7.5, consider approval of hire of Mark Winter for the Virginia High School and Rock Ridge High School principal position with the salary of $118,499 for a 46-week contract effective July 1st, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Stacy. Is there a second?
Support.
Support by Director Tamero.
Guys getting shy here or what? Nobody wants.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, all saying, I said some of this at the budget committee meeting. We just heard from Spencer about the budget shortfall. We're looking at potentially cutting administrative positions. Contrary to what we heard initially at the budget committee meeting, I do believe there is an internal candidate here who has dedicated a big portion of his career to our district, and who at the last meeting we had to pull an item off the consent agenda to cut him. And
on the consent.
I think
it was.
I believe that number one, and given the current status of things, this individual also presents a real option. I think there's a very, unfortunately, a very good chance we're looking for new leadership before our project is done. He's been with the district the entire time, and there's a very good chance a year from now we might be looking for an interim leader. And I just think that by looking to fill this from within,
He was one.
number one, please.
Okay, look,
Can I finish?
Matt, just go ahead and finish.
Thank you. Is it my turn?
Pretty soon it's going to be my turn. Please finish.
Thank you. Now I lost my train of thought.
You're saying about an interim.
Right, looking at and I think that's something that we really have to take seriously. And not only that, but the cost that we could save by filling this internally, we can call back 2 teachers.
But that's kind of a moot point because he went through the process and wasn't selected as a finalist.
And I understand what you're saying too, Matt, but also, Noel just said there was 12 people in that interview committee, filled with people from both sides. And I have to trust in the process and the decisions that are made by the people that are having to work with the individuals. So obviously the person selected had qualities that the people on the interview committee were looking for.
Right, and they aren't the ones that are looking at cutting long-term employees from our district either.
I do
With all due respect to them and the process.
Looking for the most qualified.
No, wait, no, this isn't going to get into a mud.
I'm not getting,
Here, Brandy, as stated, Matt is done. Is there anybody else that wants?
I would like to say something. No, we're going to bring in another principal, so we'll have a total of 5. And then next year, we'll go down to 4 buildings. Where's the 5th principal going to go? We're going to hire a guy from Winona to come up, move his family up, and then.
He's done.
Done? It was never part of the plan to have 5 principals.
It's always been whoever is, since last year, whoever is interviewing for the Virginia selection will rotate into the Rock Ridge.
So then who goes?
Huh? What?
Then who gets cut?
Well, from what I recall from the meet and confer meeting, from what I recall, there was a discussion about having a principal at the Laurentian, a principal at the Roosevelt, a principal at Parkview, an individual that would be a principal that would be at the Virginia High School and would eventually transfer over to the Rockridge High School, but that there was going to be an assistant principal that was going to most likely be housed at the Evelyn Gilbert campus, correct? And then once we combined, there would be an assistant principal and principal at the Rockridge High School. Because I do believe that there's going to be a need for a principal and an assistant principal at the high school.
Especially with the numbers that were.
For evaluations, and I mean, I think that, we need people helping out with the evaluations too. And an assistant principal can do that. In addition to that, there, discipline things as well that need to be handled. And so from what I recall, that was a discussion about an assistant principal. So, and I, I'm thinking about all this and thinking about, the current, the current principal that's over at the Nell Sheen Junior High. And then I'm also thinking about the dean that's been at the Evelyn campus. Where do those positions work into this? As far as like the dean, the dean goes, where's that individual going?
Yeah. Now I'm looking at the entire Rockridge School District. There's no Virginia, there's no Evelyn Gilbert site. It's the whole Rockridge District. We are going to have 3 buildings of 500 students in each one of them. Parkview, which already has 500, including the pre-K. Roosevelt is going to be a little shy of 500, but it's going to be close there. Laurentian is going to have 500 students in those. 1 administrator to 500 elementary, that is a tough job. You do not have a slacking principal in any one of those 3 buildings at a ratio of 1 to 500 in an elementary school. After that, then we go to the high school. So we're going to have somewhere about 1,100, 1,200 kids in the Rockridge High School. With a high school that is that size, you have to have 3 people making sure that that building is working. Otherwise, if you have 2, that building will be almost dysfunctional. Because the reality is there's just more behavior. You got all sorts of other things that are going on. We have teacher evaluations that have to be done. There's no way one person can do that. So when I'm thinking about, I'm going to say what's normal. In Minnesota high schools, it would be very normal to have 3 bodies in a high school of that size. Typically, it would be, which is what I would recommend, the principal, then there'd be someone in the AP role, and then you have a dean type person, and that person works heavily on discipline, cafeteria supervision and things like that. You don't need 2 assistant principals in there. And the dean is, frankly, it's cheaper. And you can still accomplish the same thing. So that's what our recommendation would be aiming for. And that is the model that the board was looking at. I'm going back in time when the districts were consolidating thinking about it 3-ish years ago. That's what we talked about. But you, of course, can change your mind and say you want to do something else.
Is there any other discussion?
Another question that I was led to believe is Mark Winter was not the guy that the committee chose. There was a candidate that had something come up in the background check. So this is the second candidate. Is that correct?
When I run the interviews, here's how I run them in short. 1 vote per person. I almost never vote during these interviews. I've managed the interviews. 1 vote per person. We have a process that we go through, and then we get to the top candidates. And then we always talk about this, and I did the exact same thing at this one. I will continue doing reference checks. I'm looking for skeletons in the closet. So I talk to people who are not on the candidate's official reference list, because you want to talk to some other people to find out what the real story is. And we had two who the committee liked. I did reference checks on both of them. Mark Winter's references were solid and good. On the other candidate, there were issues with communication. There were some other issues that had come up such that this was not going to work in Rockridge. And sometimes that happens. The individual who the committee likes, sometimes there's other things that you don't want to, you can't do it. And that's because an interview is only part of the process. You have to go and find out what is this person really like, where they're working, what have they really done, what's the real experience, because the history, as what people have done in prior jobs, that's their best predictor of how they're going to work. So this was unusual. In this case, yes, that did happen.
So was that discussed with the interview group?
When I had them in the room, yes. I told them I was going to do this. I told them I was going to do reference checks and contact and look for other things, skeletons in the closet, and also talk to people who were not on their reference list. So everyone in that interview team knew what I was going to do. And then
was there a follow-up with them about what you found out?
Yes.
So that they had input?
Not in detail, because I'm not going to talk about a candidate and put anything in email form or anything like that. So anyone on the interview team could talk to me and find me, and they did. And someone did, and they said, hey, what's the deal? And I said, here's what I found out. And so I did have some individuals do that. But in an interview like this, with this many people on the interview team, you're going to get some differences of opinions, and that's exactly what happened. An individual might have a candidate that they like in particular, and if that candidate maybe doesn't end up in the 1, 2, or 3, yeah, sure, they're disappointed. That's why I always do it a group decision when we get to the finalists. And so there's also better buy-in. So the group, and I'm not going to say everybody in the group, but from the group process, Mark Winter got solid support from the interview team.
Why don't you explain the process?
Yeah, what's the procedure? I mean,
the process was.
Tom, you want to explain what I do?
Okay, let's say there's 15 questions. When they're on the table, each candidate has 35 minutes. We ask those 15 questions. Noel tells them up front, you have 35 minutes. I'll tell you if you're not going to make it, to pick up the pace. Well, everyone asked the same exact question
around the
table.
And I understand that because I've been a part of the interim principal ones, so I can vouch for that.
We got all done with all the interviews. Noel said, okay, I want everyone to write your number one choice on a piece of paper and give it to him. He says, we'll eliminate the bottom 2 positions. And then he said, oh, wait a minute. He said, with the way it worked, we eliminated the bottom 3. So we only have 2 to deal with. It was a second vote, and it was so close. I got to be totally honest. I voted for Winters myself. So he was my second choice, came in first choice now because the other, but they were both very qualified, both of them very personable, very nice.
And so are you saying from your perspective that the way everything was handled was fair and on the up and up?
I thought it was, I couldn't have been handled better.
so, I mean, these questions, I mean, which one was the most decorated according to the state of Minnesota in licensure and professionalism and awards and education like that? I mean, we hopefully didn't, they say he was nice, he had nice hair, he dressed good. I mean, I hope you wouldn't.
Sorry, Bill, but
come on.
I mean, really, these teachers, they have to work side by side with the principal.
I know.
They don't care about their hair, Bill.
I know.
I trust people are making the decision that they feel is best for their building.
Hopefully they wouldn't be.
Is there any other discussion?
Hey, Mr. Reardon, may I just add one thing? I know you're trying to move the discussion on, but one thing the board should know is when I run the interview, all the interview questions on each question, every person who is sitting around the table watching the person interview, they have to rate the candidate on a scale of 1 to 5 on every single question. And so they go all the way through, and so when they're done, there's a point total that they can look at, because it's all equally weighted among these questions, and I make sure they're coming from a variety of different areas. So there's a very organized way that we can look at the candidates to see who is separating from who. But, and I tell the committee this, I don't want people to rely on first impressions, and we don't want to fall in love with a candidate just because of how they answered 1 or 2 questions. It's all of the questions. And so it's a pretty quantitative approach that I use.
That's 100% subjective, but that's.
All interviews are subjective.
Yes, absolutely. So it's hard to quantitate subjective matter.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of hiring Mark Winter for the Virginia High School and Rock Ridge High School principal position signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And that was John and Matt.
5-3, yeah.
And
Bill.
And Bill, John, Matt, and Bill voted no. And in the affirmative was Brandy, Stacy, Cole, Tom, and the chair, Tim. And it passes.
I'll have to welcome them aboard.
Yes. Okay, meeting announcements. Next regular meeting will be held on May 9th, 2022.
We might still be here.
Well, you know what, we can just, take a nap and,
I got birthday cake.
we are going to be going into a closed session to have an update on the teacher's contract for negotiation.
Can we do that before the next meeting? Is it possible to table that?
I would like a quick discussion.
I would like it, I really.
I had to get one last, or 2 weeks ago.
We're going to go through this. It'll be very quick.
Happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, sir.
Yeah, happy birthday.
So at this time, I'm gonna, we're gonna close our session for, time is
And I'm gonna take.
9:18.
I have kids at home by themselves. I haven't eaten dinner.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I have faith in the negotiations team, so we're good.
We'll take.
I do too. I just need an update.
3 minutes.
Hearing too much stuff off the street without hearing what really happened.
3 minutes.
Have a good night, Stacy.
I know, I
appreciate it.
Red lights, so we're live?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion
Aye.
by Tom, second by Bill, to adjourn the meeting at 9:40 with no business discussed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.